Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. This is technically the second night in a row that we've recorded. We had a long one last night, and maybe we're due for another long one. Perhaps not as long, but we'll see. You know, when we're doing things two nights in a row, we got to shake it up somehow. And so, why don't you have the pleasure of introducing our special guest for this episode?
I've brought a guest. I've brought a friend into the fold, and his name is Dan.
Hey guys, what's up?
Yeah.
How's it going, gentlemen? Colton, Andrew, thanks for having me on tonight.
Absolutely. Excited about talking about some movies?
You know, we've had an entire year of almost no movies and ironically a lot of TV, thankfully, but so I'm pretty excited to talk about movies that will hopefully come out in 2021.
Hopefully is a key word there. We like to think that 2021 is the course correction from the horror disaster, whatever, abomination, any other word you could use to describe 2020. I think we probably used a few on our episode looking back at 2020, but we are done with 2020. It's in the rearview mirror, thankfully, and we're looking ahead to 2021 on this episode. Now, mind you, we're already a month and a half into 2021 at this point, so we have had the opportunity to experience a couple things so far this year. You know, maybe you guys have, and maybe we'll talk about that later, but you know, this is always a nice, fun episode, I think, for at least Andrew and I to record on. Dan, obviously, this is your first foray, not only recording with us in general, but obviously in an episode like this. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to talk about things that are either brand new to 2021 or are things that we've now received 19 trailers for because they were supposed to come out almost a year ago. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities with this episode last year because of so many things that were delayed as a result of COVID. But before we really get into anything, I think super, exciting and looking forward to what's coming out in 2021, Dan, I am going to put you on the spot a little bit. I don't really know you too well, and I'm going to expect that our listeners may or may not know you too well. So if you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of an introduction for yourself, for myself, for everyone, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, of course. I won't say that I'm an expert film critic, but I'm a movie buff, just like you guys. I enjoy watching movies. I enjoy analyzing movies. Sometimes I enjoy crying or laughing at movies as well. So the reason I talked to Andrew and I wanted to come in was just to kind of give my 2 cents as sort of an outsider to your normal opinions, but perhaps we're probably going to agree on a lot as well. I'm also into theme parks. I'm into Halloween. I'm into horror movies. Pretty much any pop culture when it comes to film and television, I at least like to touch at some point. I can't say I've seen every movie on the list. I can't say I've heard about every movie that we're going to be talking about tonight, but I was excited to kind of get them back on my radar and have some conversations.
All right, well, very good. I expect you're also a fan of Star Wars. I see at least an R2-D2 in your background, of your video background. The listeners obviously are not privy to that, but we'll be talking Star Wars on this episode, so you can look forward to that.
Oh, yes. And I'm lucky that my girlfriend and I are both deeply, deeply into Star Wars. Although I have to confess for her, she's seen the first Star Wars she ever saw was Return of the Jedi, so I hassle her for that a little bit. But for those who can't see the visual, I'm sitting in my office right now, which is I was just telling the guys this, but it's a combination of mine and my girlfriend's Star Wars collection from about 6 years old. For me, at least, probably maybe 15 for her. But literally, this is a room of nothing but Star Wars, and it's not even everything we have. So I wish your listeners could see it right now.
There's a Star Wars bias going on in this podcast right now.
Yeah, actually, I think Andrew has a vague. Well, he's got a few hints of Star Wars in his background, and I do too. This is actually, if I can point my finger there, that is a portrait of Rey, so it's a little hard to see. But I think we all have a little bit of Star Wars in here. So anyway, I think we'll probably be like-minded on a few of these things, and this is always an opportunity for us to dive into things that we either haven't heard about, don't really know too much about, just kind of based on a plot description, maybe something sounds interesting, or maybe it sounds terrible. That's really kind of the game is here. It's just previewing everything that is to come, and you know, maybe making some hot takes and some predictions and such. And I don't know. It'll be good. So we'll just go ahead and get into it, I think. So 2021, a look ahead. I usually throw out a few disclaimers at the top, and so I will do so again here. It's not an exhaustive list of everything coming out, particularly with regard to television. It would be impossible and ridiculous to try to list everything, especially like network shows, reality shows. We kind of steer clear of that, at least in terms of covering podcasts. I think Andrew has watched a few at least of late. So maybe he wants to push back on my logic here, but you know, I think the films we tried to get as much as we could, but there are certain limitations in the sense that like theaters are in a weird place now. You know, they're sort of open in a few places and sort of not, or at least with restrictions in place. There seems to be a clear expectation that theaters go back to normal, or at least start seeing, you know, a return to normalcy in terms of business at some point this year. And I think that we're all for that, if indeed it is safe and possible for that to happen. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. I kind of curated the list. I sent it off to both Dan and Andrew, and we're kind of just going to run through things best we can. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm not totally aware of, and so it's all a little bit of discovery for all of us. And some of these things that, you know, like I said, we've seen trailers for endlessly because of delays for everything. So that leads me into my next disclaimer. All of these dates, especially on the film side of things, are obviously subject to change. I think if we had recorded this 2 weeks ago, we would have said James Bond was coming out in April, and lo and behold, it's now coming out in, I think, October. Oof. You know, and I think Sony delayed a bunch of shit too. Like Morbius is not a 2021 film anymore. I mean, oh
what?
My God. You have to wait almost a whole year to see Morbius. I mean, this is just a tragedy. Uncharted too. I mean, losing out on so many good things, obviously, but you know, really this year more than most. I won't be surprised if the April, May movies that we talk about, you know, end up moving around. And I think there's going to be a lot of release date chaos for a while until some sort of normalcy is established. And obviously vaccination rollout is I think ramping up. But you know, it's still elective at this point. They're not sticking needles in people against their will or anything like that. So I think it's going to be a fairly slow moving process still. And you know, that's also not the end all be all of the answer to COVID. It's going to require some participation from a country that has not participated all that well thus far. So we'll see how things shake out. We'll see how 2021 shapes up in terms of movies. But the hope is that, you know, most of the things I think we end up talking about do come out. And I think television, you know, was largely unaffected aside from production delays and filming delays and stuff like that. So the hope is at least television, you know, pans out just fine based on what we're talking about on this episode. So, as I said before, speculations, predictions, hot takes, cold takes, anything goes on this episode. You know, it'll be interesting having Dan on here to give us and the listeners another perspective on things, and so we'll kind of see how that shakes out. So, without further ado, why don't we talk about the wide world of television in terms of what's coming for 2021. So, the usual way I do this, I like to make myself the moderator of things in a certain sense. I'm just going to go kind of either network or streaming service, just kind of one by one, throw out just kind of a few things that caught my eye, thought maybe it would catch your guys' eyes as well. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We'll kind of go from there and see where the conversation takes us. So on the network side of things, Andrew's favorite network
yes,
is where we'll start, the CW. Dan, we have to. This is probably a baseline question. What have you watched the Arrowverse stuff? Do you have any familiarity with it? Touched it at all?
I'm gonna be honest. I might be a little quiet in this section. I haven't really gotten into it yet. It's just never quite appealed to me. It never grabbed me. Call me snotty, but it always had that kind of like, I can't think of a better word other than basic cable look to it.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's on a budget, certainly.
Yeah. So it was just something that I never jumped into. I like the DC content just fine. And actually, it's ironic because I know that that's where the best probably written DC content has come from in large part, at least according to some people close to me. But yeah,
wait, hold on a second. The best DC written contents come from the CW? That's what you've heard?
That's what I've heard, yes.
Well, its comparison are the films, so, you know. almost by default that might be true, but all right. Good to know. I did want to gauge the interest level there because, I think Andrew and I have had a falling out with the CW verse. I've tried my best to try to keep pace with it, and I'm still like years behind at this point. I think Andrew is well and good in saying goodbye to the CW
Never
stuff.
again.
I don't see him ever going back. So that brings us to Superman and Lois and Batwoman, which I think are kind of the two more interesting things in terms of what's going on in the Arrowverse. Batwoman, by virtue of the fact that they had to recast their lead role, Ruby Rose dropping out of the show, Javicia Leslie in her place. Not enough for either of you to jump on board, I'm going to guess, just reading the room. Is that fair?
That's
okay.
a no. That's a negatory.
All right. So what about Superman and Lois?
Superman
go
and
ahead.
Lois looks like it's full on breaking it off with the. They're not breaking it off. Like they're really gonna ram in like, not love triangles, but the drama of a family. Like it's not
Family
enough to
drama,
have
a little bit,
Superman.
yeah.
It's not enough to have love triangles. We're gonna bring it to the next level, and there's no more love triangles except maybe the kids. The kids probably have love triangles at school and stuff, and I imagine that's going to play a large part in it. But the real drama is what it is to be a family unit with Lois and Superman.
So
Yeah.
can I ask a bit of a meta question here?
Yeah, go
Are
for
we
it.
at the point in the zeitgeist of superhero films? Are we really at the point where we've exhausted the inner turmoil of the superheroes themselves, and now it's not exciting to see a superhero going through their process of growth and change and trauma, and now we have to have an entire family? Like, where does it end?
So to answer that question, Dan, it's because it's CW. The CW, they will dabble on the inner turmoil of a given hero. But what they really, really desire, what they really want to give their fans, is a good, satisfying drama love triangle kind of situation.
Gotcha.
That's, I mean, man, you'll get like 6 of them in one season. Well, they'll break up and they're not talking anymore, so they're going to go over here and they're going to talk to this person, and then the other person's going to get jealous, and then you get radioactive. I don't know. Do you know that GIF?
Oh my god.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Dan?
I haven't seen it. No, I'm gonna Google it now as we're speaking, though. So
All right, I'm gonna let him Google that. I'm gonna jump in and go to bat for the CW just a little bit here. At least go to bat somewhat for Superman and Lois, which is to say that like I probably, if I do watch it, it's gonna be when I catch up on everything else in 10 plus years at this rate. But I think the issue maybe with doing just a Superman solo show is that I think a lot of the territory that they would kind of run into is stuff that they'd already covered in Supergirl, with 4 seasons of Supergirl, in the sense that obviously they're not the same character. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but I do think a lot of the inner turmoil of a Kryptonian lost on Earth, I just think that they've kind of covered their bases there. And I think the reason they're taking this angle particularly is maybe in part, because of the drama potential and such, but I think it's because there's a recent run that was really good, and it was basically Superman as a dad, and I think that's clearly where they're taking their inspiration from. And so if something works in the comics, there's no reason it can't also work, in a TV show. But certainly it being on the CW, I think, is probably what might hold it back, what might not inspire confidence in the masses, in the sense that it's always probably going to fall back on the same tropes, the radioactive tropes, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So I don't know if you found the GIF while I was monologuing for a second,
did.
but
that makes it quite clear. I don't mean to be negative. I don't mean to be a hater. It's I like that you have Colton. You're defending it. Andrew hates it with a passion, and I'm kind of in the middle, leaning towards I'm not interested. And I guess is that the ultimate litmus? You have someone that's never seen it, that's not at all pulled into it. And I'm just one person. There's a lot of tastes out there, but as one man, I can't say it's enough to bring me in and make me want to get it started. So
yeah, my final observation is I do think it's interesting that we're at a point where Superman's getting his own TV show on the CW of all things, and we can't get another solo Superman film off the ground for some reason. Like, that's just an interesting place to be with one of DC's premier characters, which probably speaks volumes about how they've handled Superman in terms of the films. But Well, I guess we have Superman some way. And Tyler Hoechlin's a good Superman. He is good. I think in his appearances in Supergirl, he was a good Superman. So I think it makes sense for him to continue this role. And, like I said, if they're going to leave Superman on the shelf in the film side of things, then why not, I suppose. So anyway, let's move on to some other things. Second season of Snowpiercer. I don't think any of us... Well, Dan, maybe you watched the first season of it on TNT. I don't think Andrew or myself did. Did you ever see the movie, the Bong Joon-ho movie from a few years back?
No, it's on my list, but I just haven't taken the time to watch it.
Okay.
Incredible movie.
I think I heard mixed things about the show. It's one of those things. I think we talked about it, of how do you adapt this from what the film already accomplished in a satisfying way. And I think it took a bit of a different direction, but throwing it out there, it's one of those things, because I like the movie, I'm kind of predisposed to it. Maybe it's of interest, but we'll see. And turning into a very different direction. Has anyone seen ads for Young Rock over at NBC?
No, is it literally a young
It's
Johnson?
literally young Dwayne Johnson. That's exactly what it is.
I've seen. I saw some clips of it, and I can't say I quite understood the motive behind it, but
yeah, that's where I'm at. I think is just like, this is probably. I mean, like, The Rock is hugely popular. He's maybe the highest paid actor at this point. I mean, he's at least in the top 5, top 10, at least top 5, I would say. So clearly, he's mega popular. I don't know, but is this? I don't know. Is this falling into? I don't know. There's certain things of network television that I just do not wrap my head around. I call them the Big Bang Theories of the world. Just the things where I'm just like, this is just clearly not for me. So, no offense
Young
to
Rock
anyone that
is
likes that
clearly
show,
not for me.
But
yes, I will agree with you.
I'm with you guys on that one. I really actually I like The Rock. I like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's funny. I think he's a good star to put forward. He kind of has a positive message for for people that watch his movies, but yeah, no, not going to be my bag.
Young Rock, what the fuck?
what a world we live in, right? Young Rock,
Man,
coming
we're coming out of
NBC.
2020, and now I've got an idea. Let's do Young Rock. It's like, Jesus.
So do we even know? Is this going to be a fictionalized version to make it more entertaining? Is this just going to be like Dwayne Johnson is going to come up with ideas about, hey, wouldn't it have been funny if this happened to me when I was a kid? So let's write that into a show. Like, do we have any info on the premise of this? I mean,
I think it's based on his life. I mean, I'm sure it's dramatized and such to make it a little bit more exciting. But
I'll read a little thing. As Dwayne Johnson runs for president in 2032, he takes a comedic look back at his extraordinary life through the outrageous stories of his family and youth that shaped him into the man he is today. He explores his childhood years living amid influential wrestling icons while his dad rose to fame in the business. His rebellious teenage years attending high school in Pennsylvania and his football years teamed up with powerhouse players at the University of Miami. So... That's Young Rock.
Well, if I could tempt anyone into watching this, I can say, just looking at the Wikipedia page, that someone was cast to play Macho Man Randy Savage. So if you want a Young Rock take on Randy Savage and Andre the Giant, then look no further than Young Rock. So anyway,
all right, that's
probably not for me. Probably not for me. Also on NBC, Law & Order Organized Crime, the 19th spinoff of the Law & Order franchise, which, I'm in law school. I enjoy myself a Law & Order from time to time. This one I think is noteworthy because it's bringing back SVU's Chris Maloney in like a lead role for his own show, so good on him. Any Law & Order fans in the house?
SVU. I watched a lot of SVU back in the day.
So this could be for you. It's taken.
I like the idea that they're giving someone from one of the better Law & Order shows, in my opinion, one of the more interesting ones, giving him a front line. So,
okay,
be curious to see.
I know Anna watches SVU a lot, so I feel like
is that the one with the gothic girl?
Are you thinking? You might be thinking of NCIS.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, all right.
They do admittedly blur together. I think that's probably a fair point,
especially for the uninitiated. I feel like I probably insulted a lot of people, or there with my question, maybe. But I am uninitiated. I don't watch any of those shows.
Yeah. Last on the network side of things, The Walking Dead is perhaps at last coming to its sort of end.
Oh my goodness.
I think season 10 is finishing this year, and then season 11 is supposed to debut and finish in the same year, and it'll be followed by Rick Grimes movies and the Daryl and Carol show and whatever the hell else they're doing. So it's
the teen
ending
drama show. There's now going to be like a high school teen drama in the zombie apocalypse.
I don't know if Fear is still ongoing. Maybe it is. So the Walking Dead franchise is going nowhere, is what I'm saying, but they are technically ending the flagship show this year. I am well off The Walking Dead at this point. I probably will never go back to it. And I watched as far as season 1, so I would have to watch lots of television to even entertain the thought of getting back up to speed.
I think I watched until season 5 or 6.
I know you definitely watched further than me. Dan, were you into The Walking Dead and currently are, or anything of the sort?
Yeah, I have to say, when it came out, I was a major defender of it initially. I loved it. I mentioned earlier, I love horror movies. I love zombie movies. I liked what it brought from kind of the classic zombie films, the Romeros, all that. But it made it kind of new, and it made it really about the survival and what would people do when put in this situation. And I like the idea that, hey, you could take those kind of traumas and those kind of stresses and transpose them into any global crisis, and well, you might get an examination of how people respond to the collapse of society or the breakdown of everything they know. But then it kept going and going. I watched it up through, I don't remember if it was season 6 or season 7. The first season that Negan was in. I also read the comics up to a certain point because I was very big in The Walking Dead for a while. But where I finally reached a point where I said, you know what? I can't forgive these rambling episodes, characters that would just spend minutes of airtime giving long speeches. Everything about it just made me realize, like, this is a cash cow. They're going to milk it as a cash cow. They're obviously going to keep doing that with the Rick Grimes movies that I thought they killed him off, but they didn't. And I stopped caring at this point. They killed off. I feel like who are we supposed to care about? Who are we supposed to latch on to? I can't think of any show that I loved so much that lost its way so badly. And for that reason, for me, The Walking Dead is, in fact, dead, buried, whatever you want to say, however you'd kill those zombies, it's gone. You could put zombie strippers in space, and I would not care. I would not care.
Well then, that's a really interesting, I think, point that you bring up of just like, I always think of The Walking Dead as something that, like, I just feel like I should love it. And, like, it just feels very much a thing that appeals to me, and yet it doesn't in any way, really, beyond just the general conceit of zombies, post-apocalyptic society and dealing with the ramifications of all that. And it just, maybe if it was a 5-6 season thing, it could have avoided I think the trappings that it eventually, I guess, apparently did fall into, which is, I think, in a large part why I've steered clear and not really bothered to poke my nose back in. But yeah, I say good riddance, but it's like you said, it's not really going to be over. So anyway, maybe it's the last time we'll talk about it.
You can't keep it down.
It's undead.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I have some network television that I can talk
Andrew's
about.
Plugging in some good stuff. Is it reality-based television shows?
That's it. I'm going to kick this off with the 25th season of The Bachelor.
Okay,
is
do
airing.
We know who The Bachelor is? Do we have a headshot of him?
The Bachelor is Matt James. And wait, is that right? Is that his name, Matt James? Pretty sure his name.
I sure as shit don't know.
There's some drama right now with Chris Harrison. He had to take a leave of absence from the show. There's some controversy floating around him, and he's been the host for like all 25 seasons. But this is a dramatic season with these ladies trying to win the heart of one bachelor. So that's a thing that's on. We also, American Idol is just kicked off every Sunday. The Voice is fixing to kick up again. And I think that's all. I got right now. I know that American Idol airs on Sunday. I like me some American Idol. I've always enjoyed American Idol. I've watched that, I think, every year since I was a wee lad. And then The Voice. The Voice is pretty cool too. So I like those two shows. The Bachelor. Sarah likes The Bachelor, so I make dinner and I'm gonna wine and sit there and watch it. But so it's cool. And that's all I got for network television.
All right. Well, then let's say goodbye to network television and move along to Apple TV Plus. I think this is a first for us of talking about Apple TV Plus separately. I don't have Apple TV Plus. Andrew, I know you have an Apple TV. Does that come with the subscription and do you have to pay for all that shit?
Yeah.
How does that work?
If you buy a new iPhone, you get, I think, a year subscription to it for free. I don't know if I just got an iPhone, so I think that I have a close to a year's worth of subscription. I can say that I've watched a couple of movies from it. And one of them I can say is I think fairly unoriginal but well done, and which is it's got the real JT in it. It's got the real JT Palmer. That's it. I watched Palmer, and I thought that was a touching movie. Okay. But I also watched that ship movie with Tom Hanks, where he's like the ship. Naval captain.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was okay. Like it was okay. But those are the only two things I've watched on the platform. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there are some TV shows coming to Apple TV Plus that maybe are worth talking about, maybe are not. I've heard good things about Dickinson's, the first one I put on the list. It's got Haley Steinfeld. It's like a period, I guess, comedy where she plays Emily Dickinson, the author, at a certain point in her youth. I think the first season got really good reviews. It's coming up for a second season now, if that's of interest to anyone. Dan, I didn't even ask you, are you anywhere on the Apple TV Plus train? Or are you like me?
No, I'm with you on that one. I draw a line at how many streaming services I'm going to subscribe to at this point. Yeah. There's a lot, and they keep growing. We'll talk about another one that's rebranding and expanding in terms of content momentarily. But yeah, other things on the Apple TV Plus for those that do care for anything along those lines. For All Mankind is another show. I think a space exploration show, alternate history. I think not quite Man in the High Castle, but I think basically, what if the Soviet Union beat the United States to the moon? What are the repercussions of that? Which I think is an interesting concept. I think it got mixed to good reviews. Second season coming up. And beyond that, Ted Lasso was supposed to be really good last year. I know people really liked that show, but I don't think we're getting a new season of that. The only thing that I think that Andrew and I talked about a long time ago, I think I looked up and the trailer came out 7 months ago, so the show clearly got delayed, is a show called Foundation, which is based off of, I believe, Isaac Asimov novels. Maybe, I'm not sure if singular or plural on that one, to be honest. But I recall it looking very interesting. It is based off a book series, so plural is the way to go.
The trilogy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, yeah.
So, in the interest of disclosure, I did put a few trailers, for everyone to watch in preparation, but it was largely newer stuff. And like I said, this trailer came out 7 months ago, so it might have passed people by. But it is about the 1,000-year saga of the Foundation, a band of exiles who can discover that the only way to save the galactic empire from destruction is to defy it. So, you're looking at some classic sci-fi stuff. Jared Harris, Lee Pace, I think, are two biggest actors in it.
It looks like my shit.
David Goyer. Yeah, I feel like we liked the vibes of it when the trailer came out. So this is probably the one thing for me of the new stuff that I'm aware is coming to Apple TV Plus that thinks, maybe I'll chuck in a free trial or something like that whenever this rolls around. But Dan, and looking at anything grabbing you from what you can see at a quick glance?
As someone that probably won't get Apple TV Plus, I would say Foundation. Just looking at the Wikipedia for kind of the story layout now is probably going to be the thing that might bring me to it. If it's good enough, it's not going to make me sign up as a day one supporter, but that's definitely something that I'll be keeping my eye on. Also, For All Mankind, I'm always a sucker for space exploration, like the actual history of it. I love watching the documentaries. Anything that has actual footage is very much up my alley. So the idea of the alternate history, again, it's not going to make me suddenly jump over and want to pay for that subscription, but it would be something that, were a subscription available to me, I would absolutely watch it.
Yeah. And I will say, at least, again, as someone that hasn't gone into it, to be fair, I do think that their pricing isn't that bad. I think it's around $5 a month for the subscription, which I think is, in terms of the streaming services, like fairly reasonable, and obviously it's probably more of an upstart thing. And once it starts to, be more established, the figures slowly, steadily climb up. But, throwing it out there for anyone that, might, if anything I mentioned caught any interest for anyone. So, Andrew, do you have any other thoughts, any other Apple TV Plus things that you might be aware of that I haven't listed here, or any thoughts on the things that I did list?
For strictly television for Apple TV, Foundation looked like it was going to be pretty profound for a streaming service, at least from the trailer. Dan, I highly recommend you watch the trailer. I think you'll really dig it. For All Mankind was something that I think was a day one launch for the season, or for season one was a day one Apple TV launch, I want to say, or very close. And I've been meaning to hop on board with that. That and Man in the High Castle, I've wanted to watch both of those. I haven't yet. I like my Apple, as a device, my Apple TV. I like my Apple TV a whole lot. I think it's a really high quality device. And Apple, you can say whatever you want about them, but they make like the application and the layout and the delivery of the things that they have on that platform. I think is top tier stuff. It's very clean, and just the app design in itself, I think it's really good. But like I said, hit or miss for the things that I've seen on the platform, the actual content that I've taken from Apple TV. It's been one was really, I thought one was a very good movie, but the other, so it's been kind of hit or miss. Got one that's okay, one that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll find its feeding foot. I don't know where my brain is going. I swear I've had less than a beer at this point, but it'll get its bearings before long, and I think it'll probably start to jump in the conversation. I think more so with your bigger streaming services. I mean, it has Apple and infinite money behind it, so it just kind of feels like it's headed in that direction. Let's take a quick jaunt over to Stars for American Gods season 3. Andrew and I talked about the trailer, I think, fairly recently. I think I'm off the show. Andrew is, I think, still somewhat curious.
So read the book, was really intrigued by season 1. Season 2, there's just a lot of behind the scenes problems. I was about to start it. I think season 3 is actually starting to air now, I think.
Yes, I think it's currently airing. I don't think it's done, but I think it's currently airing.
Yeah, but I to be honest with you, I'm kind of reluctant to start just because the season 2 is real sloppy. It was pretty discouraging to continue forward. But I am interested. I'm intrigued to see where they take the story. So I mean, just based off of curiosity, I might jump in at some point. But it'll probably be when the season's concluded and I'm not left hanging. I can kind of just grind it out and say I watched it. So, Dan, you watch American Gods, Dan?
I read the book. I love the book. I didn't have Stars at the time that it came out, so I'm kind of on the ship of I'm going to wait till it's available on some other streaming source. I know that might take a while, but I'm kind of with you where I'd rather watch it, having not seen either season 1 or 2. I'd rather just watch it when it's all there to be binged. That's not one that I care to really get in on with the once a week deal.
All right. Well, there you have it. the aforementioned new, quote-unquote, new streaming service for 2021 is Paramount Plus, which is a simple rebranding of CBS All Access. Everyone's got to get in on the Plus game with Disney and Apple and such, but it is still very much CBS All Access, live sports, live streaming of CBS programming, some original programming, mostly Star Trek. A lot of Star Trek for the people that like Star Trek. There is a new show that seems to come out every few months. I think there's a Captain Pike show that's maybe expected this year, maybe late this year, maybe next year. Picard probably get another season. Discovery, there's an animated one. They did the Stand adaptation, which I think is done now, but I think started airing at the end of last year and just finished up maybe a week or two ago, roughly. So there's some stuff on there. Not really anything super exciting for me. That said, I did luck into a deal to get a year and a half of it for like $15. So I guess maybe I'll watch some of these things at some point. The only thing I put on the list for the episode is something that just started airing, I think, after the Super Bowl, which we didn't talk about that. I know Andrew's a Bucs fan. I don't know, Dan, if you are as well. I feel like you probably are in the area. I don't know if you're a football fan in general, but good on the Bucs for winning the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, bringing it home for Tampa Bay, as it's now known apparently.
Tampa Bay is what I keep saying. I'm just north of Tampa myself, so I'm
okay. Yeah,
I've been inundated with it. Wasn't too interested in it myself, but it's always cool. Okay. I will say that I appreciate the history in. It's the first time you've ever had the home team play and then also win a Super Bowl, which of all the negative historical events we've been privy to in the past year, it's fun to be privy to some more neutral to good historical events for a change of pace.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. And I think, if my recollection serves me correctly, the last time the Bucs won the Super Bowl, I was in elementary school. So was that. It's been a few years, obviously, for fans. I actually remember it happening and just not really understanding it. And if I'm not mistaken, that may have also been the Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson halftime show, but I could be mistaken on that front. I may just be conflating two separate things that I remember that happened in elementary school. But anyway, I remember them. So I think this started airing the show that led me off into that tangent. Clarice is the show, I think, premiered around the same time, maybe the same day as the Super Bowl, something like that. Or I don't know, roughly around the same time. It doesn't matter, really. And it is I think it's a follow-up to The Silence of the Lambs. I don't think it's an adaptation per se. I think it's kind of a follow-up to The Silence of the Lambs. Presumably the book, I guess the movie doesn't really matter. I'm not really sure if it's intended to follow one or the other more specifically, but anyone watching Clarice?
For me, I haven't. I love Silence of the Lambs, so if I can jump on the Paramount Plus bandwagon, I might check that out. I watched the trailer for it. Looked interesting. Definitely something I would watch if I were to get onto that platform, for sure.
Okay.
The actress even seemed to nail Jodie Foster's accent, which I thought was pretty inspired. Like it.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I noticed in the trailer anyways. I thought it was pretty close, which is cool.
Yeah. I was just curious. She's Australian, so she is very definitively from somewhere different than Jodie Foster, which is just kind of interesting to acting. Yeah. How does it work? But yeah. I don't think the reviews have been super hot thus far, but it is an interesting thing, following up on The Silence of the Lambs. And I have to assume there are obviously multiple novels, centering around Hannibal Lecter and associated characters, including Clarice Starling. But I think this is kind of original content, as far as I'm aware. So,
and I just don't think you top Hannibal. Hannibal was so fucking incredible.
That's true. Yeah, you had a pretty recent run,
super high.
I mean,
TV. just
that's fair.
Such a good show. Did you ever see
so
that, Dan?
Artistic. Yeah, it was so artistically produced. It kind of straddled the line between horror, thriller, and with just a little bit of police procedural in it. So you could get people on all kind of different angles. It was definitely, looking back on it now, I'm surprised that it made it on a network television.
Yeah, absolutely.
The level of
Yeah.
violence is, I don't know about you guys, but other than especially broadcast television, I don't think I've ever seen that level of violence and gore and just some of the things that they got away with. Maybe we've seen things like that from American Horror Story and Walking Dead on the cable networks, but definitely nothing like that on broadcast. Looking at it right now, I just pulled up the Wikipedia while you guys were talking, and it is set after a year after Silence of the Lambs. I just saw something very interesting that apparently they can't feature or even make reference to Hannibal Lecter, according to the based on the rights issues. So,
Well, how does that work?
isn't that central to the character of Clarice? Isn't that kind of the elephant in the room for anyone that works with her? But
I guess, I would think if you're going to do that, wouldn't you make it a prequel so that you wouldn't have to involve that character, instead of just ignoring the elephant in the room, I guess. But
that's where they were stuck, because she was in training, I think, leading up to Silence of the Lambs. If they're actually going with a quote-unquote canon, I'm not an expert on Hannibal versus canon and where the different threads go, but yeah, it seems like they kind of wrote themselves into a little bit of a corner.
That could be a problem. They forgot to resolve the rights issues, and they're like, "Oh, I guess we'll just make it anyway."
And I guess my question then is what will they do? And this isn't a negative, because they may surprise us all, but what can they do with the character of Clarice Starling to make it stand out from any other FBI investigating serial killers type premise? So,
of which there are many.
Yes, at least one or two.
Yeah.
I think
One show that's gotten. I don't mean to move on if you guys want to continue to talk about it, but. One show that's on, I think it's on Paramount Network, that I've heard nothing but high praises on was Yellowstone. And I wanted to get into that when I saw the trailer, and I just never watched it. I think they're in like season 3 or 4 now with Kevin Costner.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. I feel like it maybe started airing on a different network, which was maybe absorbed into Paramount Viacom type thing, having the rights to it, because I think they're doing a prequel series through Paramount Plus related to Yellowstone as well.
Okay.
But I have heard good things about that too. I think, if I'm not again conflating two different things, I think that was the Taylor Sheridan written show.
I think so,
which would certainly explain some cred behind it. So yeah, I am trying to keep an eye on the clock, so I'm gonna keep us moving along into Hulu territory. I have a lot of shows listed for some of the next few, and I think some are going to warrant more conversation with maybe some of the other streaming services too. So I'm just going to kind of read out what I had, and if there's anything that catches anyone's interest, is something they want to talk about more specifically, you can feel free to chime in and speak up at that point. But a couple new shows are Dope Sick and 9 Perfect Strangers. They seem to be getting a decent amount of buzz. I can try to give you guys a little bit of information about them. Dope Sick is based on a nonfiction book, stars Michael Keaton. It's about the epicenter of America's struggle with opioid addiction. So it probably makes for a fairly heavy show, I would have to guess. 9 Perfect Strangers, Nicole Kidman, Melissa McCarthy, Luke Evans, lots of people, based on a novel as well. About 9 Australians from different walks of life that attend a 10-day mind and body total transformation retreat run by a mysterious Russian woman. What the hell does that mean? I don't know.
Okay.
Beyond that, we're getting more Handmaid's Tale, another season of that, season 4, also going to be heavy. And then there's also the FX on Hulu stuff. So Atlanta is getting another season. We're getting more American Horror Story. They're doing American Horror Stories, which I believe is a film anthology series. We're getting something called The Old Man, which is a Jeff Bridges show. I think he plays a FBI agent or retired FBI agent or something like that. And then something I think we've talked about now 3 years in a row and is maybe going to come out this year is Why the Last Man, which is about, I think it's a graphic novel adaptation or a comic book adaptation about the last man on Earth. Basically, everyone is it's all women that's left, and then there's one man. And, basically it's a women-run society, and what does it mean to be the last man in that society? So of those that I just kind of quickly mentioned, is there anything there that stands out? I know I think Andrew has watched at least a couple seasons of The Handmaid's Tale. Atlanta seasons 1 and 2 are great. Highly recommend those. But anything there for anyone?
I know for me, I actually just in the past couple years went from hating American Horror Story to really loving it, actually. I've really grown into the artistic style that Ryan Murphy creates. I realize that's not for everyone, between being horror and also being Ryan Murphy. But I'm pretty excited to see, especially with American Horror Stories. I don't remember. I feel like I remember hearing somewhere that they might touch on some more like kind of American folklore or urban legends. I don't know if they're going to go that route or not anymore, but I'm really excited to see what they can do when they're outside of the constraint of having to tell a 10-episode story and can instead tell something a little bit more shorter, with a little bit more short form. But I really like American Horror Story. I buy into it. I'm curious to see what they do with season 10. I like the whole we don't know what it's about element till it comes out. I've been waiting pretty impatiently for.
What was the last season about? What was the?
It was 1984, I think. It was kind of a riff on the Friday the 13th style slashers. It also featured some of Richard Ramirez, which is ironic because they just came out with the Netflix documentary. But they were definitely playing hard into the everyone's obsessed with the 80s fad of 2019. So I'll be curious to see what they do with it next.
Right on. So I've seen a couple of, I think I saw one season of American Horror Story when it was set in Louisiana.
Oh, the Coven, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that season. Did they all star the lady from Misery?
Kathy Bates.
Yeah,
No, and that's actually I think one of the strengths of the show is that they've had some cast members come back. They've had cast members. She's in a couple seasons. She was most recently in the Apocalypse season, which was in 2018, I think. That aired. But they've got they mostly feature. They got Sarah Paulson. You've got Evan Peters, or the kind of two mainstays that have been in it from the get-go. But I've also heard that season 10 is going to have Macaulay Culkin in it. And I don't know if you guys have kind of seen that he's, I think we all know the story how after his child stardom, he fell into drugs and got in a lot of trouble. But for what it's worth, I'm really happy to kind of see how he sort of turned himself around. He's kind of rebranding himself a little bit. So I'm curious to see what kind of chemistry he has with the rest of the cast and what he can bring.
Yeah. That's interesting that he's starring in that. I didn't know he was going to star in that. But The Old Man, I can say that I'm excited about The Old Man. And I am also excited about Why the Last Man.
You just like things with men in them?
Excited about men. They've been working on Why for freaking ever. Seems like it's always been delayed. Like they'd pick it up, they're going to make a movie about it.
It's transferred 2 or 3 different networks and a few different creators and writers. It's been a hectic, I think, development process for it.
Yeah, but I've been excited about that for a while. And you can't beat freaking Jeff Bridges. Okay, I mean, there's some actors that appear in movies, and you just. Yeah, I'll watch that. I'll give that a shot.
It's fucking Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, it's Jeff Bridges. You can't beat Jeff Bridges. Except that one movie he played in where he was like the cop from like The Dead or something. That was pretty shit.
What was that? R.I.P.D.
It's like trying to be Men in Black, but with ghosts instead of aliens.
Oh, it was real bad.
Awful.
You could probably beat him in that. So,
fair enough. Yeah.
But anyways, that's what I got for Hulu.
All right. HBO / HBO Max, I guess, at this point. Lots of stuff coming to HBO Max this year. Certainly on the film side, we'll get there. But of course, the classic HBO original programming coming as well. Mayor of Easttown is a limited series. The trailer just dropped for that, I think maybe in the last couple days, somewhere around there. Starting in April, it's a limited series about a detective investigating. I mean, half the shows I feel like we've talked about thus far are just detectives investigating shit, but whatever, It's got Kate Winslet in it. Kate Winslet's great. Do we like the trailer for this? I assume you guys had a chance to check it out.
That looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
I imagine that's what. I don't want to speak ill of Clarice, but I imagine this is something that Clarice seeks to be.
Perhaps. Yeah.
It looks like a proper detective movie. So,
do we know is Mare of Easttown based on an existing IP from either book or an existing film or television, or is this just a new IP that they picked up?
My understanding is it's a new IP, just from looking it up. I think it's the same writer on all the episodes, so it's kind of purely original content. It does feel like we get a lot of books along these lines and adaptations, but this one kind of doesn't seem to be that. So
I feel like
I did think it looked interesting. Yeah. So it's set in Pennsylvania, so that's good for me. Apparently, in a small town in Pennsylvania, so I probably won't know anything about it. But I thought it looked good. Kate Winslet, I think, is very good. I think Guy Pearce, I'm pretty sure we saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm game for this. I think it looks good. It feels like something that I would like to watch.
Did you guys ever watch movie Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri?
Fuck yeah, we watched that movie.
I covered it once upon a time too.
Exactly. Yeah. Before I apologize. I haven't heard that one. It was before I.
It's been a few.
I think it was even before I knew
years.
you, Andrew. But
it was. Yes, indeed.
I can't put my finger on it, but for some reason, the trailer for Mare of Easttown gave me vibes of Three Billboards. I realize it's a completely different premise, completely different setup, but something about just the tone and the way it was shot made me think of Three
Interesting.
Billboards. So I'm curious to see where that goes. And it's Russo Brothers, wasn't it? That one, Russo Brothers as well, directing.
So I think the Three Billboards Outside, the same people that did Seven Psychopaths. Who did that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Martin McDonough, I think, who did Three Billboards, yeah. And In Bruges. He's
In Bruges.
Back in the day.
But yeah, this is Brad.
So yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, I see the comparison. I like Three Billboards. I feel like I'm going to like this, so.
Three
Feels
Billboards
like a
is a
favorable
badass
comparison to
movie.
me.
That was a really good movie.
It really is. Bizarre ending. It just kind of ends. It's one of those movies that doesn't give you a lot of resolution, and I like that sometimes. It's very kind of. It felt like a Coen Brothers movie that wasn't made by the Coen Brothers a little bit.
I could dig that. I think I may have said that at some point on the episode too.
Yeah. I could see. Yeah, definitely some vibes there. So, Mare of Easttown is coming out in April. Maybe we'll catch it. Maybe we won't. We'll see. And other HBO stuff in terms of new stuff. There's a show called The Nevers coming out, which is technically a Joss Whedon creation, although he left the show in the midst of making it, and let's just say he probably would have been forced off it based on recent allegations that have come to light. It's a science fiction-y thing about a gang of Victorian women who find themselves with unusual abilities. So I think kind of a science fiction period drama, which sounds, I think, pretty interesting. I don't think we have any footage or anything of it yet, but it's expected to debut sometime this year. Looks like April, actually. And something that is I see listed for 2021, but I won't be surprised if it gets moved, is called Station 11, based off of a 2014 novel. And I'll just read a description of it real quick, and maybe you'll understand why I say they might want to move it away. Takes place in the Great Lakes region before and after a fictional swine flu pandemic known as the Georgia flu, which devastates the world, killing most of the population. Maybe steer clear for a bit. Maybe steer clear is what I'm saying.
Pump the brakes.
Don't songbird it is what I'm saying.
Fucking songbird.
It's not escapism if we're in the middle of it right now. I'm sorry.
It's too close to home. Yeah. If you can give us some distance, then we can appreciate things, and we'll appreciate the 900 movies that get made about COVID as well. Yeah. But no thanks right now is how I feel about that. Beyond that, Succession's coming back for a third season. Barry will be back for a third season. Hear great things about Succession. Still need to watch Barry season 2 on my end.
So do I. Barry was
two
great,
things
though.
that maybe if I have time on my hands, I catch up on at some point. So. Anything on the HBO front for anyone else?
No.
All right. Amazon Prime Video winding down here on the TV side of things. Just a couple fantasy vehicles that will be very interesting. I'll get to those in a second. We're getting Underground Railroad, which is a historical drama that you could probably guess what it's about based on the title. Invincible, an animated adaptation of, I believe the Robert Kirkman comic books, if I'm not mistaken. Another season of Bosch for Andrew to watch and monologue about at some point. And then the two fantasy vehicles. I mean, these may or may not make 2021. I wouldn't be surprised because I imagine the post-production process is going to be pretty intense on both. But we're supposed to be getting a Wheel of Time adaptation, and we're supposed to be getting a Lord of the Rings quote-unquote adaptation, but something that is not an adaptation of the books, but is just taking place in Middle-earth, I believe, in the Second Age of men, which Elijah Wood said some words about it, I think either yesterday or today, basically like, why are you calling this Lord of the Rings? It's not Lord of the Rings. It's in the world, but it's not Lord of the Rings.
So Second Age, I've been looking forward to asking you guys this question because you're much more, I know that Dan is, I don't know how much you know about it, Colton, but when is the Second Age of Man?
So Lord of the Rings takes place in the Third Age. That's at the time when like Sauron is the big bad. We all know that story. The Second Age is when, if I remember correctly from the Silmarillion, which I read years and years and years and years ago, it's when humans, you know how Aragorn lives, for hundreds of years because he's special?
Yeah.
It's his bloodline. It's where they come from. And I think it also kind of has to do with how men fell. Men used to be all kind of quasi-elven, and then they fell because they were seduced by Sauron. So we might see some like young Sauron before he was the big bad, when he was sort of just twisting people's minds from the shadows. Probably looked a lot more handsome. Definitely have some biblical Luciferian vibes there. But
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
finish.
I was just going to say, and in the second, I'm curious to see if they pull content from unwritten or for unpublished works or the unfinished tales, Silmarillion, and they kind of use this as their vehicle to say, hey, we couldn't make a feature film or a series of feature films out of the Silmarillion, but we can take stories from that and adapt them into television. I'll be curious to see if they do that, or if they just say, you know what, we have a world, we have a universe we can play with, let's just tell our own stories in that. I doubt they'll go the latter route. I'm sure that they're going to be doing things from the former, but either way, I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Although not having Peter Jackson attached to it at all, I'll be curious to see if it has any of the same tone or the same flavor.
I almost feel like it will probably want to. I just feel like, I think Lord of the Rings is an IP that sells itself, really. Like I said, there's probably a reason they're calling it that, or at least they haven't changed the title of it yet. It's because they know the brand. They know the strength of the brand. And I just imagine if you're doing another version of it and you're going to try to, you could obviously do your own thing with it and create a new visual style, blah, blah, blah. But, you have two existing works of, adaptations, recent live action adaptations of Tolkien stuff. And you probably don't want to go the Hobbit route, so you probably want to stick as closely as you can to kind of the style of Lord of the Rings. And yeah, I just feel like it's going to have to.
It's going to be really disappointing if it's shit.
I just feel like they want to have the synergy there. I'd be surprised if they didn't go in that direction, but I guess we'll see. We haven't seen anything about it. The cast list on Wikipedia is like 50 people long, so I have to imagine it's going to be a pretty expansive show. I know Amazon spent a stupid amount of money on it. This is the one they committed $1 billion up front to make 5 seasons of it, probably because they spent so much on the rights. They're like, we have to get the money back somehow. But
if not in quality, at least in duration. It'll be around for a long time once it actually comes out, once it actually airs.
Yeah.
It I have
much
to
like The Walking Dead.
Don't even no.
It's too soon. We can't make the comparison just yet. Give it at least a couple seasons before we start going down that road.
But let's also be honest. This has to be Amazon's way of saying, hey, with no Game of Thrones, let's try and be the next big high fantasy, big budget, made for, in this case, streaming, not live airing, but streaming series.
And if we don't win with Lord of the Rings,
we got the Wheel of Time.
We got the Wheel of Time. Perfect segue. Another, as of yet unadapted, major fantasy work from the 20th century.
Yeah. And, there's 15 books to pull from?
Yeah, from 2 different authors. And
so, there's plenty of seasons that can be mined, I'd imagine, out of that content, should they go that route. But yeah, It's exciting. My brothers are big fans of the Wheel of Time. I've never read the series myself. It's always been on my list of things to get around to, but it's a daunting task. It is nice that obviously it's complete. Although, by the virtue of Brandon Sanderson stepping in to fill in after the unfortunate death of Robert Jordan. But I've heard good things. I feel like it seems like something that, if you throw a budget behind it, I assume it'd probably be pretty cool. Dan, have you read up on the Wheel of Time, any of it?
So I'm in the same boat as you. It's on my list. I'm a huge Sanderson fan, so that's kind of my segue into it. I like the way Sanderson does magic systems and tells his stories, and I know that Robert Jordan was a big influence for him. So I'm really excited to see, could this... Selfishly, I'm wondering if this could be a segue where, if that does well, could this be a segue to see more of these fantasy works that are well known, but kind of they're still on the fringe of being really in the popular mindset. I'll be curious to see if that starts to pull more of those kind of works into being mainstream popular, and we could see more works like that get adapted into television or streaming or animated or what have you.
Yeah. Well, I think that might do it for Amazon, unless there's some thoughts on anything else. Hearing nothing, on to Netflix we go. So, Netflix is kind of a weird one where, they'll just announce shit 3 weeks before it happens, and that's just kind of how they roll with things. We got a surprise drop, sort of a surprise drop. I think they changed the release date, and then it was an earlier drop than expected. Cobra Kai Season 3 came around, first season on Netflix on New Year's Day. I think Andrew's watched it. I'm still working my way through Season 2, but I intend to get there eventually.
On my
beyond
list.
that... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's on my list, yeah. So.
Okay, all right. Well, we are in the same... We're on the same page there. Shadow and Bone is something I think that's like a YA type thing that's getting an adaptation. I know they put out an announcement teaser for it pretty recently. I confess I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's a thing.
I just watched the announcement teaser for Shadow and Bone.
Okay, did that do anything for you? Did that?
Yeah, it looked pretty
pique your
fucking.
interest?
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. There's like a deer with this massive antler in it. Yeah, it looks magical.
Okay.
So I don't know anything about Shadow and Bone, but
something to do with the deer with cool antlers.
I don't really know anything about it. Like I said, I know that little teaser thing came out, and I know Netflix obviously is no stranger to doing book fantasy, adaptations, anything of that nature. So, described as a fantasy drama, sure, sounds good to me. April 23rd is when it's expected to debut, and I expect we'll probably get a fuller trailer for it, I'd imagine, in the next month or so. Midnight Mass is another new one coming to Netflix. This is a horror one, so it might be up Dan's alley. Did you watch either the... I already forgot the name of the two. The Mike Flanagan shows, Haunting of Hill House, and then Bly Manor, I think, was last year. Did you watch either of those?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love both of them. They're right up my alley. I'm of the opinion that Mike Flanagan is one of the kind of the modern... he's one of the modern masters of telling... I wouldn't even... It's not like high gore. It's not high even jump scare. He tells horror stories. They're frightening, but not in the hey, let's scare the poop out of you way, but more in the let's make you think, let's get you into these characters. So I'm really curious to see. I've watched some of the trailers or some of the footage that they released for that. So I'm really excited to see where they go with it. Yeah,
well, it's not. I think he's been very explicit. Like, it's not kind of the third in like an anthology series, but it is another horror series that he's making for Netflix. So obviously, it's drawing the comparisons. My Mike Flanagan experience is unfortunately limited pretty much exclusively to the Dr. Sleep film adaptation, which I really liked. Not having read the book or anything like that, but I just thought it was really well done. And I've wanted to watch the two Haunting series. They have gotten really good reviews, just really seemed like my shit, and just it hasn't happened yet. But this is another one that seems like it would be a thing for me. Isolated island community experiencing supernatural events after the arrival of a mysterious priest. Sounds weird and horror-y and...
Sounds cool.
Out there and cool. I like that. Everything about that sounds good. So it's something on there. Something I added to the list as a late addition. I forgot this was a 2021 thing, but Cowboy Bebop is getting its live action.
No way!
Netflix adaptation, expected to debut in 2021. I think there was a delay in filming. Well, there was a delay in filming pre the pandemic because John Cho, who I think is playing Spike in it, I think broke his leg. And so they had to shut down production for a while and film around that. And obviously there were probably some pandemic-induced filming delays, but I think it is expected to debut at sometime this year. So I've never watched the original anime. I have the Blu-ray complete set of it. I need to go back and watch it because I know it's a fan favorite. I see Dan smiling. I don't know if that's because he's watched it and liked it or what the impression is there, but...
No, I'm smiling because I'm reading the Wikipedia on it as we speak, and
okay.
It's right up my alley because I'm just kind of now getting into anime, and anytime you put space and western in the same sentence, I mean, I'm on board with it. So
sure. So yeah, and rounding out Netflix is follow-ups to two things that Andrew and I have covered, and that would be Stranger Things 4 and The Witcher Season 2, and safe to say I'm looking forward to both of them.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more footage, or I'd like to see footage from The Witcher Season 2. I think we got to look at Henry Cavill in a new kind of upgraded Geralt costume, but it looked mostly the same from what I could tell. And Stranger Things 4, we got, I think, a little bit of a tease a while back with David Harbour working on some train tracks or something like that. But sure. Just let me know when they're coming and I'll watch them. That's kind of how I feel about them. Don't really need to convince me at this point.
The Witcher's new armor looks like straight up battle armor. Like he's like, I haven't seen this picture.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly the same. It just looks like more black, more abs.
are you looking at the one where he has the Batman abs going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's a large man. He's a big dude. Fucking Henry Cavill. Yeah. I'd be scared to death.
You could say that if he were a McDonald's meal, he would be a super-sized man.
Yeah?
Mm. Yeah.
I'll see myself out now. I'll leave.
He'll see his way out. Don't worry about it. All right. Disney Plus. We end on Disney Plus, as I believe we did last year, because there's nothing but goodness, in my estimation, coming to Disney Plus this year. I think this is an exclusively Marvel and Star Wars list that I have, compiled for us. But it's interesting. 2020 was a year totally devoid of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, another baseline question for you, Dan. What's your MCU take? Are you a fan, into it? I see the Star Wars room, but I don't know if there's a Marvel room that's somewhere else in the house or anything.
Yeah, no, the MCU for me is pretty much how I view Marvel. I read some of the comic books as a kid, but I'm a big fan of, if you're going to have an interconnected universe, let it make sense, let it flow, and I like that they're doing that now with Star Wars. As much as I was sad to see the EU get pushed into the Legends territory, but not having something MCU was weird. I mean, it was a decade of our lives. You know, you'd go and see the new Marvel movie, and of course, we lost a lot of things in 2020. And going to the theater to see the midnight or the 8 p.m. on Thursday or whatever showing of the Marvel movie of the year was something that was sorely missed. Yeah,
the timing, in a weird way, could not have been better. And I think we might have talked about this, but just imagining if Avengers Endgame was coming out, with Black Widow's slot last year, and if they had to move things around to accommodate that, the frustration, I think, of everyone involved would have been really, really something to see. But it all sort of worked out, and the end result is that 2021 is going to be, we hope, and so far we at least have had some MCU content. We hope it's going to be packed to the brim with a lot of MCU stuff, both on Disney Plus and perhaps in theaters too. So on the Disney Plus side of things, WandaVision is 2/3 of its way through its season. I'm up to date. I don't know how you guys are watching it, but I can safely say that I like what I've seen. I'm sure Andrew and I will cover it when it wraps up in March. But it's nice to have the MCU back, and it's nice to have our first sliver of Marvel Studios on television. Obviously, we had the Netflix shows, we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this is the first proper Marvel Studios putting their weight behind a TV show, and it certainly has the feel of a film at times, which is pretty exciting.
And it's pretty, well,
it's pretty
great.
Yeah.
Pretty. And if you think about it too, it's our first real piece. We had Spider-Man Far From Home. That was came out the summer after. That gave us some post Endgame content. And now, just for the record, my girlfriend and I, Kelly, are planning on waiting till it's all out. We're going to binge it. We're willing to wait for The Mandalorian and see that when it comes out, but we just say, you know what, we can't take that for another show this soon, so we're gonna wait till it's done in March and then watch them all. But getting to see kind of where it tells me from the spoilers I have heard and the things I have read, where we might be getting some hints at where post Endgame MCU might be going, and that to me is really exciting. Arguably even more so than Black Widow, which I know we'll get to later. But
that's squarely not in a post Endgame territory. For some obvious reasons. So
yeah, so it's kind of nice to see that. All right, what's the world going to look like after Endgame? Yeah,
and it's interesting because they messed up the world pretty good, even though everything kind of worked out in the end in its own sort of way. Having a 5-year gap of half the people in the world disappearing leaves its mark, and I think the show does kind of hit on that. So it is interesting to see how they play with that. So WandaVision is just one of many Marvel shows that we're going to get this year. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be debuting in March. We did get a new trailer for that. Got a little sliver of it during the Super Bowl, and then we got a full trailer that they put out online. How did everyone enjoy that trailer, or did they enjoy that trailer? I guess I'll say.
I thought it looked great. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about a kinetic, action-packed Marvel show. Don't get me wrong, WandaVision's cool in its own way, but I'm excited for some superheroes, man. I mean,
it's been a while. We had a lot of DC content last year, admittedly, and I don't think that it was the most satisfying content based on what we talked about on our last episode. Certainly, Wonder Woman in particular did not fill the void that having no MCU stuff did. So
yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see where they take it. A world without Captain America, and it's going to put characters in interesting places, and I think it looks great. I'm excited. I'm really excited about it.
I'm with Andrew on that one. I think it looks like it's going to have that great combination of kind of spy thriller, action, superhero that I think made the Captain America films so good and so grounded. I like that we're going to get to see a comic accurate version of Baron Zemo now. For me, he's actually one of my favorite villains that they adapted to the MCU, just because there was something so grounded about his story and the way they handled it. But I'm curious to see what they do now that they can expand on that a little bit and go beyond what they did with Civil War. I think the chemistry between them is going to be great. I think it's going to have the comedy we want. The trailer makes it clear that they're definitely putting a lot of their MCU eggs in the Disney Plus basket. And I feel like this is, if WandaVision was sort of the first foray, this is definitely going to be what I think they want to see, what they want to bring a lot of those audiences in. And I think it's going to, if it succeeds, we could be seeing a new favorite on, I'm going to call it now, on Disney Plus. If it wasn't for some of the things we're about to talk about, it would probably be my most anticipated thing on Disney Plus this year, if not my most anticipated piece of pop culture content coming out at all.
Okay, yeah. I'm excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Having watched, the 6 episodes of WandaVision, it I think in large part does feel episodic. They're shorter episodes, and I know the Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to have longer episodes with a shorter episode count. And, the way Kevin Feige talks about it is like, there's like 6 mini movies is kind of what it seems like. And that just to me is really exciting to see them kind of explore storytelling in that sort of format, which is a way that we really have not seen. Even with WandaVision, we still haven't seen it yet from Marvel Studios, and it's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It starts in March. I think it's 6 episodes, so it'll wrap up either April or early May, just depending on when its actual debut date is. Loki will closely follow it in May. Loki series, following the exploits of, I believe, the Endgame Loki that, happened to fuck off with the Tesseract and is now off on his own set of misadventures and such. Tom Hiddleston, of course, back. I think the Disney Investor Day, we got a lot of these looks at a lot of these things. And Loki was one that looked super intriguing for me. I think for Andrew as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Perhaps perhaps
same.
for you, Dan?
Again, they can play with so many different genres at the MCU, and here's yet another one. So
I know Andrew was really digging What If on that Disney.
I've watched the trailer. I watched the trailer again tonight, and for the third time, I got fucking goosebumps. I am so incredibly. Yes, I'm excited about Loki. Yes, I'm excited about I'm just excited for all of them. The presentation and execution of this trailer for What If was just astounding. It's so good. Jeffrey Wright, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
Incredible. I think he's going to nail it. And just I don't know, just like the what the show is, I think is a really novel idea. And so I couldn't be more excited about What If.
And one thing about What If is something that Anna actually brought up in her contribution to our Chadwick Boseman episode, is that although Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was his final film role, he did actually record and lend his voice to the other, the What If version of T'Challa for this. So we will at least be able to hear his voice one more time in that role, which I think is very exciting and is among the many weird out there ideas that they're going to explore with What If. I think that's just another reason to get excited for it, is to look forward to that. So the last two Marvel ones are the things that we have the least amount of information on. I would imagine are going to be fall or potentially even winter debuts. Hawkeye and Miss Marvel. Hawkeye, of course, bringing back everyone's favorite musician, Jeremy Renner, as Clint Barton.
Jeremy.
And Kate Bishop will be joining the fray as well, portrayed by Haley Steinfeld, which is very exciting. She's great. And then we have Miss Marvel, which is they cast Iman Vellani, kind of a newcomer, to play this role, who I think is kind of very much blown up in terms of popularity since her debut in comics, I think roughly a decade ago, somewhere around there. Very recent in the scheme of things, but clearly making a huge footprint in terms of comics. Someone who has sort of stretchy powers, not quite Mr. Fantastic level of stretchy powers, but kind of along, elongation powers, I guess is kind of how they put it, something like that. But, was the main character of an Avengers game that came out late last year for any of those that played, and is now getting her own show and going to appear in Captain Marvel 2 sometime down the line too. So of Hawkeye and Miss Marvel, are those ones that interest people as well?
Yeah,
they do for me. So,
yeah, I mean,
I'm looking forward to it all, but
more Marvel, and this is their chance to try new things. Endgame was a perfect end to the normal, what we all expect. So I say let them play with everything they got at this point.
It's true. It's a new saga. It's a new era. So yeah. And that brings us to Star Wars. Promised some Star Wars. I had to follow up on it. So we're getting at least one animated show, and I think probably just one live action show for 2021. I think a lot of the stuff at Investor Day, I think, was mostly going to be 2022 stuff or beyond potentially. But we're getting Star Wars: The Bad Batch, an animated show, and a follow-up to that little 4-episode arc that we did get in that final season of the Clone Wars, which I greatly enjoyed. So I think that's very exciting. The Bad Batch, why don't we pause and talk about The Bad Batch? I think, and Andrew and I have talked about it a little bit. Dan, I assume, apparently, I think you've just finished the Clone Wars recently, I believe you were saying.
As a matter of fact, we finished last week, and I think I'm going to steal Kelly's words, my girlfriend's on this, that and I quote, I could absolutely see a TV show based on these characters. I think the chemistry that the Bad Batch had, the amount of, as much as they all fell into tropes, we just all bought it, right? And it's a way to give a little bit more of that kind of Clone Wars content, and also a little bit of closure to, I think, the Clone Wars. We know what happens in Clone Wars. We know what happens in Revenge of the Sith, but we don't know a lot about what happens in the weeks and the months after Order 66 and after the New Order. And that's personally one of my favorite periods of Star Wars, because it's got so much meat you can chew on. You have a combination of storytelling around the trauma of Order 66, but also what was it like for the clones on the other side? What was it like for the members of the Republic turned Imperial military that we're seeing rise in power. I've heard there's going to be Tarkin in it, which I'm always on board for, even though he was an absolute dick in the Clone Wars. Not that he isn't in any other medium, but I'll be curious to see how they work him in. And I'm also just really curious to see how they play with clones that are they going to stick with the Empire? Are they going to question it? I think there's a lot of meat they can chew on. Also, having Echo back in it and being able to continue his story is sort of the, hey, you might not see as many of the other Clone Wars characters, but you have someone carrying over. I don't expect to see Rex or Ahsoka or any of those other key characters, but it'll be nice to see at least a few of the familiar faces as we. For me, I'm almost glad that I waited till now to finish Clone Wars because we have a few months left before Bad Batch, and we all know what was going to happen at the end of Clone Wars. But suffice to say, that's that shit hits pretty hard when you watch it, no matter what, even though you know it's coming. So, getting to have a continuation of that story from the clones' perspective is something that I could spend hours talking about. So I'll stop, but maybe when that comes out, I'll bother to let me back on because that's something I'm pretty pumped about.
I think just hearing you talk about it for a couple of minutes, I think we could appreciate some of the insights you could bring to the table for our future coverage of the Bad Batch whenever it does come along. But another thing, the last thing for all of the television that we've talked about so far, one of the most exciting things, and my understanding is that The Mandalorian Season 3 is being made after this next show that I'm talking about, which is to say that we won't get Mandalorian Season 3, quote-unquote Season 3, with Pedro Pascal until probably 2022. So in its place in that late year Disney Plus slot, we are getting the Book of Boba Fett with Tamara Morrison back as Boba, reprising his role from... specifically as Boba, I guess, from Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and then Ming-Na Wen also back as Fennec Shand. And we got the little bit of the teaser for that as the post-credits thing from the last episode of The Mandalorian. Very excited.
Yeah.
Boba Fett's back in a big bad way. It's good. I'm here for it.
110%. Is Rodriguez going to be involved with this?
He is. I think he's producing it.
Yeah. All
I
right.
wouldn't be surprised if he ends up, writing and directing it to some extent. Maybe not the whole thing, but I think it's, in the way that I think we talked about it. Ahsoka is probably going to be Dave Filoni's baby, and I think that the Rangers and the Mandalorian are still kind of Jon Favreau's. Johnny V's
right.
Thing. I think that this is going to be Robert Rodriguez's thing, which is very exciting because obviously that one episode we got with, armorless Boba Fett going to town was directed by none other than Robert Rodriguez. So
it's so exciting.
It could be a shade of how exciting that episode was and how truly well shot and how well produced that action was, and it would still be great. And plus, of everyone that's always said, "Oh, Boba Fett, he got poorly treated. He's so underused." It's like after 40 plus years of people complaining about that, we finally truly get to see him kick some ass. Mm-hmm. And whether it's all ass kicking or if it's just a lot of what's it like to literally take over the throne of Jabba the Hutt, and there's stories to be told, and I think we're all here for it.
Yeah.
On a side note, did you guys ever play the PlayStation? I don't know if it was just on PlayStation or not.
The Bounty Hunter game?
Bounty Hunter, yeah. That was hard as shit. When I was a
I
kid,
do recall it being difficult. I never beat it. That was Django focused, right? Wasn't that?
Yes, I think so. What a badass game that game was. That was cool as shit.
I'm pretty sure they've put it up on you can find it. You can buy it on like the PlayStation Store and Xbox Live and stuff like that. So it's accessible if you feel the.
I don't know how. I probably didn't. It's probably pretty.
Might
dated.
be a little clunkier now if it was hard back in the day. It's probably even harder now, but yeah.
But I remember thoroughly enjoying that game. Something about a bounty hunter, just cool as shit.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there's a lot of good old school Star Wars games. I mean, I'm glad we got Fallen Order. It was felt like a return to good Star Wars games finally. If it was a little janky in some respects, but I don't know. Just the old LucasArts heyday. I do miss it.
Fucking Rogue Squadron was incredible on GameCube. God dang, I played so much of that.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
Little itty bitty baby disc.
And I know that this isn't a gaming podcast, but if the rumors are true of an open world Star Wars game and it at all has the feeling of either Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, gamers are in for a treat. Because who else watched the first season of Mandalorian and said, hey, he's leveling up his armor, he's getting new gear. This is an RPG waiting to happen, or a video game waiting to happen. And whether that ties into Book of Boba Fett or something else, I just think, oh my God.
The possibilities really are endless. And so mind them. Like, Star Wars fatigue, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you do something well, it doesn't get fatigued, I think is kind of really, the approach with it. So anyway, I think that is television for 2021 of things to look forward to. Does that, do we think there's enough to look forward to? Are we excited about what's to come in terms of television? I feel like Disney Plus alone would probably tide me over, but there's plenty of other good stuff too. All right. Well, let's dive into the films that we can look forward to in 2021. I'm gonna start, our running through the list of films in 2021 on a new note, on an untraditional note. Netflix put out a trailer for their 2021 film slate, and these don't have any release dates, so they don't really fit in with everything else. So I figured I'd just treat them separately. Netflix is basically promising to put out a film a week, it seems like. One could probably entertain the thought that some of them are not going to be great, but I think there were some diamonds in the rough certainly last year, and that I imagine will be probably true this year. Was there any movies in that trailer thing that stood out for you guys? Very brief snippets of everything. Really not a whole lot there, but
I want to say yes, but I'm not quite sure. I watched it. I mean, I watched it before the episode, but we've been going on for a little bit now, and we've been talking about a lot of different things. So
it's all mixing together in your head. It's kind of hard to parse it out.
Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds are in a movie together. There's that one.
They are. That one's called Red Notice. That's the one that they're in. The three of them together. This was originally a Universal movie that Netflix bought the rights for, which explains, I think, why those three are in it, in a way. I think Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds are criminals, and The Rock is a profiler for the FBI. So it's The Rock as an Interpol agent versus Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, which could be fun. I think it could absolutely be fun. This is the kind of movie that I don't expect a lot out of, I don't think.
No.
And obviously it remains to be seen. Like, if we get a trailer that blows my socks off, maybe my opinion, goes in a different direction. But it just feels like it's a movie that's going to ride on the coattails of a charming cast. And that might be enough, especially for Netflix, where I think, look at things with a lower standard anyway. Just expectations are a little bit lower typically anyway. But yeah, that's one. That was one that was in there.
The Harder They Fall looks cool.
The Harder They Fall, yeah, there's a good cast in that one. I think Jonathan Majors is in that one.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
Idris Elba, maybe? I can't remember.
I haven't seen a good Western in a long time. A Western would scratch a good itch, for sure.
Okay.
You also have I guess it would be called Tick Tick Boom. Is that that's the movie with Hamilton? Hamilton's in this one, or is directing it.
Yeah. Lin-Manuel Miranda's doing something. So,
have you seen Hamilton?
I haven't. Kelly and I keep saying we need to watch Hamilton.
Dan, you come over. Wear your mask. You come over, and we need to watch some fucking Hamilton.
It's on my list, and it's actually every Lin-Manuel Miranda movie I watch, I joke that, when is he going to start rapping? Because I just know that's his thing. He did, in fact, rap in Mary Poppins Returns. He did not rap in his Dark Materials, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Still another season to come.
That's true. One more.
Not a television show. Probably coming back in 2020 or 2021. Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe not. Maybe 2022 at this rate. But anyway, but I'm kind of with Andrew, where a lot of this stuff ran together. Netflix, I feel like, used to be top dog when it came to streaming, and now I kind of feel like, they're there. Everyone else is on.
I think it's fair.
On it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when you buy so many IPs, you get some, you lose some. Some of them are shit. Some of them are award worthy. It's just the nature of the beast.
You know, and the thing is, like, if you're a movie studio, if you're WB, if you're Disney for that matter, you know, you're on top of the world, you're making billions of dollars every year, except for probably last year, I guess, to be fair. You're still not putting out a movie every week. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
And so if you're Netflix and your promise is we're putting out a movie every week, and like a lot of that is just acquired stuff, some of that's probably original films and stuff like that, but like, that's a lot. And like, Netflix doesn't have infinite capital. I know they spend a lot of money, obviously, to get new users and to retain their users so they can, you know, function as a business and make money and such. But I just think there's going to be a lot of trash in that. I'm just not expecting a lot of quality from something where they're just like, look, there's something every week for you. And I think it's a great model. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it covers a lot of bases. Like, you know, maybe that's a better way of looking at it, in the sense that, like, there's probably a lot of movies and genres that I am not going to care about, that are not made for me, that are made for someone else entirely, and that's fine, right? You know, it's like, I don't have to enjoy everything that comes along, and not everything has to be exclusively catered to me. That's silly. So I appreciate what Netflix is doing, and I appreciate, obviously, what Netflix did, in the sense that they certainly occupied a lot of our time last year out of necessity, but I'm not expecting a lot with any of these movies, you know, and I think that there will be a few in there. I think, you know, there will be a Mank in there. I think there will be, you know, a good Netflix movie that will come out of that bunch that will make some waves. But I'm not sure if it's going to be any of the things that we saw in this trailer. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We don't have enough to go off of, really. But the other ones that did stand out to me, just in terms of net recognition, in terms of cast, maybe, or something like that. Malcolm and Marie came out on Netflix pretty recently. I know we talked about the trailer
did look
for
good.
that. Still want to watch that at some point. Army of the Dead, the next Zack Snyder. Well, it's the next new Zack Snyder film in a way. We'll talk about the other one before long, but zombies from Zack Snyder. I suppose that it's not the first time he's entered that territory, and I think he was actually pretty successful the first time around. So perhaps this one is as well. Don't Look Up, I think, is probably the last thing, and that's the Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence one, where they play astronomers, I think, directed by Adam McKay, you know, who's done The Big Short, Vice recently. So, you know, curious to see what he pumps out for his next film. But that's Netflix. I'm putting them in their own corner, because we'll inevitably cover some of these, and we'll inevitably completely forget about and ignore the others, is kind of how I feel about it. But good on them for making an attempt, making the effort, I suppose. In terms of other streaming services, obviously the big thing is what HBO Max is doing this year. Unprecedented move of day and date debuts of theatrical releases on HBO Max. We saw it with Wonder Woman 1984 late last year. We've now seen it twice already this year. First of all, I guess we'll get there. We're going to go through the months and such, but you know, they put out this trailer advertising like all these big movies. You can experience them at home through HBO Max. And
I have.
I guess if you're brave enough, you'll go to a theater. So yeah, and some of these,
I've seen every movie they've released this way since Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and it's HBO Max might be the MVP of 2021. You know, I still don't know when I'll feel comfortable enough to go sit in the theater. It's mostly because I don't trust other people at this point. And obviously, I think it's fine if I can mask up and stay inside an auditorium, but I still feel bad for the theater employees that are kind of stuck with that work. But hopefully we get to a point this year where I'm watching things in theaters. Look, Dune might be coming out on HBO Max, but as we've talked about, I think before, if I could see it in IMAX safely, I will do that, is kind of how I feel about it. Yeah. But I love that even the movies, like, I mean, they're offering it through the entirety of the year. So there's some big heavy hitters coming out towards the back half of the year where they have absolutely no incentive to try to keep to this model, but they're committed to it anyway. And I think it's actually really cool that they're doing it. So kudos to HBO for kind of what they're doing. So with all that said, let's just kind of go through this list. Obviously, we're in February at the time of recording this, so January has since passed, but there were a couple things, I guess a few things that came out that I'll shout out. One is One Night in Miami, which is on Amazon Prime. It's supposed to be very good, something I want to watch at some point. And then one of those things is one of those movies that debuted simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max, The Little Things, with Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and everyone's favorite Jared Leto. Andrew obviously has seen it. I feel like you liked it. I think we talked about covering it at one point. We might have missed the window on it a little bit, but it's still up on HBO Max for I think a couple weeks longer at least. So, is it worth watching? I guess I'll defer to Andrew.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was a watch. It's a movie. I mean, that was totally fine.
Okay,
Totally fine. That was,
and then you already talked about it, but Palmer on Apple TV Plus.
I thought Palmer was a step up. I think Palmer is unoriginal, but I think Palmer touches on sensitive content, and I think it's well executed. And so, yeah, I thought it was worth watching. Made me cry a little bit, made me tear up. But I cry for everything. Sarah got me luggage on fucking Valentine's Day. I cried. So,
You're just a very emotional man. Yeah. That's okay. Embrace it. So yeah, that's a very quick recap of what happened in January. Is there anything of those three that, Dan, I didn't really give you much of a window for any of those. I don't know if there's anything that you need to hit on there, but
yeah, no, I mean, I saw the ads for The Little Things. I thought, oh, that looks like another Equalizer with Rami Malek. Didn't super grab me. Might check it out, but there's just so much else going on. There's so much other content to be consuming right now that those are all like, yep, don't need them. Moving on.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So February, the month that we currently are existing in. Judas and the Black Messiah made a theatrical debut and an HBO Max debut. It's gotten rave reviews. I know Andrew has seen it. I have not seen it yet, but it is on my list, and I think maybe one that we can end up covering if it feels warranted, which from all intents and purposes it does seem to be.
It's very good.
Beyond that,
yeah, very timely. Okay. Definitely a timely piece. I haven't seen it yet either. I plan on watching it. Another one of those things, though, that's going to be when you got to gear up for. I feel.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Andrew could speak to that, obviously, more than me.
It's pretty powerful movie.
Okay, all right. Well, you can watch it on HBO Max right now. The magic of HBO Max. February, I think there's a lot of other movies that are like sort of quote-unquote 2020 movies that basically are now being released to the masses. So I argue that they are a 2021 film at this point. So the likes of Saint Maud, I think, is now available for video on demand. I feel like that is a horror. I mean, it's a horror movie, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So if anyone's in the mood for some horror, that's one way to go. Nomadland is an awards darling. It seems like directed by Chloe Zhao, who is doing the upcoming Eternals film, which in an alternate universe came out 3 months ago or 4 months ago, however long that was. So it's getting a lot of great buzz. Frances McDormand is the lead in it. So we talked about 3 billboards there. So, it's a little more connection there. Minari is a big one that Andrew and I have been looking forward to for a long time. That'll be up on video on demand on the 26th of this month.
Nice.
So not very long away from when we're recording. And also on the 26th, the Tom and Jerry pseudo live action movie is coming to theaters and HBO Max. So that's February in a nutshell. Which of those stand out for you guys, if any?
Judas and the Black Messiah is excellent. Highly recommend it. But Saint Maud I've been excited about since I saw the first trailer like last year. I don't know,
10, 15 years ago, 13, whenever it was.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Nomadland, but I did see it in a lot of the selection, a lot of the award predictions. So it piques my interest in Minari. Minari is like one of the first trailers to ever make me cry. Minari made me tear up a little bit. So, Minari looks absolutely incredible. I'm very excited. Tom and Jerry I'm not excited for. So, that's my...
But it's on HBO Max, so will you continue the trend?
I will continue the trend. I will watch Tom and Jerry. I will show my appreciation for what they're doing by watching everything that comes out when it comes out. Everything.
Yeah.
All of it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Dan, what say you?
I'm pretty much with you guys. I want to watch Judas and the Black Messiah. I have a love-hate relationship with the A24 horror movies. Some of them I think are great,
Okay.
like Hereditary. Some of them I think get too much credit, like in Midsummer. I didn't love it. But I'll be curious to see where they go with this one.
What about when that bitch jumped off the fucking rock? What'd you think about that?
In Midsummer? I mean, it was certainly violent, but I mean... But I definitely realize that Ari Aster is... I know this isn't an Ari Aster horror movie. He's got his own style, so this will certainly be different. Green Room is a great one, though. I love Green
Room's
Room,
incredible.
So,
yeah.
So I'm going to give it a shot. I love the psychological horror. I love that A24 has given these small stories a chance to have
Did you watch Possessor? Was Possessor A24?
Oh, I don't remember. I did not watch
I think
it.
I think it might have been Neon.
Neon, I think you're right. What'd you think about like the group sex scene in what's it called? In Midsummer?
That happened.
It sure did, didn't it?
It happened on screen, and I watched it.
It was a little weird.
It went into the occipital lobe of my brain. I think what I like about A24 is that it's kind of like the indie studio that isn't an indie studio. So it gives, again, it's an avenue for storytelling that you wouldn't get. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not always my cup of tea. So, but Minari definitely looks like one that, not that any of us need any more reasons to cry, but, talk about a movie that's going to make me probably weep openly.
That's a good one.
And feel many
emotions.
emotions.
I don't know if it's a good one, but presumably it's a good one.
Yeah, it might be a bad one.
It's reviewed well, so we're looking forward to it, certainly. Did you guys know that there's a Midsummer director's cut that's like 40 minutes longer?
What?
Jeez.
No way.
But joking, the 40 minutes is all just more of pulling out away from the bear on fire, or the guy in the bear set on fire. It's just 40 minutes of slowly.
It goes across the whole globe eventually. It's just a little speck in the frame.
Sorry. I don't mean to get the ire of all the Midsummer fans out there, but just having long takes doesn't a horror movie make.
you will share an opinion with my girlfriend's dad, who found it to be the worst movie he'd ever seen. I mean, to be honest, we don't know why he watched it. We're just like, you're gonna hate this. This is not a movie for you. And he got his DVD from Netflix, and he sat down and watched it and was like, I hated everything about this. And I was like, well,
you can be disturbed like that movie was going for, but also entertained. That movie was disturbing. It was well made. I don't mean to get us backtracked, but
I started it. It's my fault.
It's okay. Entertaining for me, it was not. So again, but
fair enough.
Did you ever see Antichrist, Dan?
Oh God! And the tangent continues. I did not know, for the record.
That one's an interesting one. you needed.
Oh man.
Anything, you can probably queue up anything Lars von Trier and just think, okay, we're for a ride.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. So that's February. Nomadland will be on Hulu. All these are either VOD or streaming. So obviously theaters are where they are right now. So that makes sense. March might be a little bit of a different story. Probably not for the most part, but March 5th, we will be getting Raya and the Last Dragon coming to theaters, the next Disney animated film from Disney Animation, with Kelly Marie Tran. Star Wars's, sort of Star Wars's. I mean, Rise of Skywalker was keen to kick her out of the franchise as quickly as possible, but she's voicing Raya in this. We got a new trailer for that. This is the next one. It's following the Mulan model, where it'll be offered for the $30 Premier Access. Sorry, got the terminology incorrect, but on Disney Plus. So there'll be a way to watch it at home, just for spending some money, of course. What do you guys think about the trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon?
So I think this movie looks absolutely incredible.
All right.
And I'm going to say something, and I don't know if this is an appropriate thing to say, but I can defend it.
Okay.
I feel like this is the Mulan we deserved.
No, I don't think that's.
I know that you can say it's like, hey, well, it's just
I was expecting far worse.
It's just Chinese general. You know, you're just making Chinese like they're both about Chinese women or whatever. But this looks. I mean, you have the dragon, which is essentially Mushu. You know what I mean? You have the older adults trying to train her, and but it also has like some Ghibli. It looks like it's drawn on some Ghibli inspirations.
Little Avatar in there too. Last Airbender.
A little bit.
Anytime it's the last anything, and it's again, I'm with you where I might be overgeneralizing, but definitely has that. Okay, someone's looking for the MacGuffin person, and they've got to solve all the problems of the world with it. Boom.
And she's a total badass with a whip sword. The fuck, that looks awesome. And even like that, when they first released the trailer for it, they had that sequence where it was like Indiana Jones kind of thing, where she's
right, which almost seems like maybe that's even the first sequence of the movie, and it time jumps or something. I don't know, but
yeah, like it looks like it draws from a lot of different inspirations, and it looks like it's going to be a timely movie with all the polarization of people and everything else, and different tribes and what it is to come together for a common thing. Or common good. I think it's going to have a Pixar message or a Disney. I guess is it Pixar attached to this or no?
Disney.
It's not Pixar. It's
just Disney.
Disney. So it's Frozen and Tangled, and
it's going to have a good Disney message
cited in there,
which will be cool. So yeah, in many ways, I think that this is the female-led, kick-ass thing that I wanted from Mulan. It just looks cool.
Just not live action, but yeah, I was with you last year where I was looking forward to Milan like nobody's business, and we got what we got, and it was not great when I wanted it to be. And I'm with you, Andrew, where I've been watching the trailers for this, and I have the secret wicked desire to see this be better than Frozen and all them, because I just like the idea of it's a badass woman who's going on a quest, you have a little bit of hero's journey in there, you have a little bit of the comedy, you have a little bit of the broken world kind of premise. There's just so much entertainment I think to be had in that, as much as it falls back on tropes. And I'm a big fan right now of films that will entertain but also have meat to them. If that makes sense, that there could still be a message here. And also, you mentioned the dragon in the title. I don't know why, but I just think that what's her name, Aquafina, is voicing the dragon. There's just something about my funny bone that she just tickles, man. I don't know if it's her voice.
I think Andrew too.
I mean, I hope it does not go the way of Mulan did last year, where I'm so excited for it. It's just And maybe it's just because we see it as an Asian-flavored, martial arts-based Disney movie. So I'm comparing the two, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm really
Andrew started it.
I think it's true. I'll take the blame.
But as a side note, though, if we're going to go down that route, has there ever been a Disney film where it was really more of a Southeast Asian representation in it? And I don't
think so.
I don't mean to go down that road.
I think this is kind of a fusion of different countries and cultures in Southeast Asia, but no, I mean, I don't think so.
I can't think of any.
That's good. I mean,
I think the more exposure that Disney, the more that Disney can expose the masses to these different cultures, I think the more, I think the better at the end of the day. And
absolutely.
They haven't done that for years and years, but I think it's a good thing. So,
yeah.
What do I know?
So I think Raya, I don't know, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I know it's one of those that I think I'm not a huge fan of the Premier Access model, but
Dan, if you want to come over, not to cut you off, if you want to come over, we'll rent that shit.
I was going to say let's rent a movie theater. Maybe there's one opening up nearby.
I don't know
let's
about
rent
that.
a theater and invite 100 of our closest friends, and they can all chip in. It'll be like 10 cents a piece that way.
That's one way to do it. I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to it. Not a fan of the Premier Access model. I think it invites comparisons to Mulan because it is the second film to be offered in that way. And I will say that I feel more confident in a $30 investment in this than I think I did in Mulan. I think in Mulan I was looking forward to it, but I still had pretty tempered expectations personally, whereas this I'm starting to let the expectations ramp up a bit, such that
Yeah, I'm going to pay $30. I don't give a shit. I'm going to pay for it and I'm going to watch it.
I have a good feeling about it. I do. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. But also on March 5th, we will be getting our first proper theatrical release, and I do mean exclusively a theatrical release. One I won't be seeing in theaters because I'm not going to do that to myself. But Chaos Walking is finally making its way to cinemas. Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley.
Looks like shit, right?
Not great. I mean, it's a production hell kind of movie.
Imagine it's
been sitting on the shelves for a few years. I think they did some pretty extensive reshoots to try to fix the movie, and so it just feels like it's a New Mutant situation in my assessment of. Yeah, the pandemic is still going, but we need to recoup something. Just dump in and we can forget about it and move on with our lives is kind of how it feels to me. If it was streaming, it feels like the perfect candidate for a Netflix acquisition of just being like, it's pretty schlocky and pretty crappy, but if I'm watching it on Netflix, my expectations are already pretty low and I'm fine with it. Whereas if I'm like going to a theater and paying money for it beyond, just like a subscription model, like, no thanks. I guess is kind of how I feel about it, but nonetheless, it's coming out, so I mention it. Any other thoughts on Chaos Walking?
Yeah, it doesn't look, I don't think it looks very good. I know which one I'm going to be watching on March 5th, I'll tell you that. I mean, that's...
Correct. There's one you could watch at home, which obviously is advantageous in many ways, but also there's one that coincidentally also just looks significantly better and well worth your time. So yeah, that's that. March 12th, we'll be getting Cherry over on Apple TV Plus. If you want, if you get Chaos Walking one week, then you can get more Tom Holland the following week with Cherry, where he's. This is a Russo brothers film, which is interesting. It's their follow-up to Avengers Endgame, obviously a bit more smaller scale.
I think Cherry looks good. This is a very well-made trailer, I think.
Okay.
It's got
liking it?
Yeah. It's got a good cast. I like Bill Skarsgård and Tom Holland. And I don't know. It looks like a good story that's told in a cool way. And then, I mean, it could just be, hey, Apple, you guys have good advertisers. Can you make us a trailer from this content? And they just make a really stylized, really cool trailer. But the trailer execution, the marketing team is on point. At least I thought with this movie. So, looks like I don't know, just looks like a really cool story. It looks like really intriguing. It looks like it's a believable story, and I think Tom Holland is a genuinely very talented dude, and I think he's very capable of putting on this role. And the only thing that I do not know about is constantly breaking the fucking fourth wall or third wall or whatever the fuck. Constantly talking to the camera. Hopefully it's not an Enola Holmes situation where it's just obnoxious. Sure. And as long as it's not, I just really don't care for that type of storytelling. So hopefully it's not too much of that, but we'll see what we get.
Also, I'll be curious to see if the final product is as style. We talked about how maybe it was just the effort put into the trailer, but the trailer makes it look so stylized, and watch it be nothing like that in the final finished product. Who knows what we're going to
get. I don't know. I'll be curious about that. I mean, because often there is a divide between, the production team and a marketing team, but sometimes not so much where, you have a director that is, or I guess perhaps in this case, directors that are heavily involved in that, and they want to make sure that, the trailer they're putting out is actually representative of the film that they made. So yeah, I will be curious to keep an eye out for that.
Fun fact.
This is one that catches my eye for sure. Fun fact. Let's hear it.
Fun fact. Nico Walker wrote Cherry. Nicholas Walker is an American author and U.S. Army veteran who served time in prison for a bank robbery. His semi-autobiographical debut novel, Cherry, was published by Alfred A. Knopf in 2018.
Well, there you go.
So it's based on a true story.
Nice. All right. Well,
about himself.
Feels like it'll be pretty compelling. So, yeah. Well, if you want to talk about exquisitely crafted trailers for films that are I mean, just going to blow the doors down of audiences everywhere. Look no further than Zack Snyder's Justice League coming to HBO Max on March 18th. We got a fuller trailer for this again, for Zack Snyder's 4-hour epic, just as he intended, except for the fact that he went back and did reshoots on it, so that he could have Jared Leto literally say the words, "We live in a society," and include that in a feature film.
Jesus Christ. The trailer is in 4:3.
The whole movie is going to be in 4:3.
No,
So get used to
no
it for 4
way.
hours.
Are you serious?
That's gonna be.
I am dead serious. He wanted to emphasize the verticality of superheroes and their statures, and I'm just like, okay, dude. Okay.
So can we turn our television screens to 90 degrees and maybe get a better?
Well, someone online said that if you just watch it on your iPad, then it kind of fits the screen perfectly. So that's also another way to do it.
Quibi. He's made a Quibi.
It's the first time that the comments will ever say, "Dude, turn your phone around when you're filming."
Oh my!
And they're gonna be, "Wait, shit." I appreciate, as someone who likes Wes Anderson films, I can appreciate wanting to use alternative aspect ratios.
Yeah.
But the difference is Wes Anderson uses it for one purpose. If this is just, hey, I want to be different, I want to do something fun, then no, I'm sorry.
This just looks like shit, right? Like, it's not just me.
I don't think it's just you, no.
I had a dream. Kind of like a premonition. What?
So, did you have a dream or did you have a premonition? Just pick one.
Oh, like the sonic waves, like they just had to make, like, they couldn't just make his voice loud. They have to have the sonic waves of his voice. Oh, Jesus. We're going to lay into this shit. It's going to be a 4-hour rant. It's going to be...
We have to make the episode just as long as the movie itself. Yes,
you know what?
True.
They're not charging $30 to watch it.
That's true.
Right? It's included with HBO Max, so I'm going to watch it. Not enjoying the DC EU. I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to rip into it. I will probably be entertained, but I don't think it's going to be for the reason that...
It's going to be long as fuck, Dan. At some point, you have to say, I'm not entertained anymore. What the fuck are you doing? I'm not entertained.
There was the conversation at one point that this was going to be a 4-part miniseries that he was going to cut it into, and then at some point, clearly the decision was just like, fuck you.
It's because he was going to put it on a Quibi.
I'm going to make a 4-hour movie. He's going to put it on a Quibi, yeah. But you're out of your goddamn mind if you think I'm going to watch this in one sitting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'll have the willpower to do that, minimally speaking.
Fucking Zack Snyder, Jesus.
I will do it for the sake of this podcast and also for the sake of my own morbid curiosity. I don't doubt that, like, Zack Snyder's vision of Justice League will be kind of more interesting in the sense that obviously what we got was this weird hodgepodge of dark Zack Snyder and more lighthearted Joss Whedon, and it was a weird Frankenstein of a film that we got, but at least it was mercifully short. This will be 4 hours of Zack Snyder beat you over your head with, Jesus imagery and whatever else he wants to pump in there, and bad CGI looking dark side, and I don't know. It's to me, this is the most overwrought thing of all time, potentially. And, like, I'm interested out of my own morbid curiosity because I just have to know what it is, Like, I don't think the fact that the fans, like, almost single-handedly willed this into existence, like, they memed it into existence, is just something that I think speaks for itself. But as an actual product, I just can't imagine this being anywhere close to being good. I just can't imagine it. Like, again, maybe people are going to think it's better than the other Justice League, and, like, fine, whatever, it's a pure vision, etc. But you don't want Zack Snyder writing and directing things. I just don't think you want it. People don't really want... I mean, certain people clearly crave that and thrive on that shit, but it's a very specific type of individual I would submit, so... Anyway, we live in a society or whatever, so...
We live in a society. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Batman.
I think the best line is, I had a dream.
vision. A vision of the future. A suspicion. When is he going to come in and say, I had a dream where in a world there was a society?
It's so fucking stupid. Anyways, it's going to be a thing. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it for 4 hours or so.
Shot in 4:3. I might actually just watch it in my fucking phone.
Sorry. Oh, God.
Yeah. 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 All right. We got to move on. Any other thoughts on Justice League?
There's a lot of thoughts.
Many, but
There's a lot of thoughts.
Not enough time.
Maybe we need to reconvene for this. Maybe this is the crew that needs to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Christ.
Bring lots of alcohol is probably
That's
my suggestion.
If there's any left after watching it.
All right. Well, you don't want to watch Godzilla versus Kong on your phone, do you?
Absolutely
March 31st
not.
On HBO Max.
Nope. Guilty pleasure right there.
Yeah.
Monkey.
Yeah. Giant fucking monkey. Gorilla. Oh, dude. He's got... King Kong has a fucking axe.
I mean, can we just agree, though, that this is like... These movies shouldn't be as entertaining as they are, but somehow they're fun. Like, they work, right? Am I wrong?
No. I enjoyed the
no.
the first Godzilla
so
was
dumb, but...
the verse. They shied away from Godzilla in the first one, right? They didn't show a lot of
kind
them.
of hit them. Yeah.
But there was some cool imagery with like the people skydiving through the fucking clouds with the red smoke and stuff. There was, but they hit them. Then it turned into Pacific Rim with the second one. Now the second one was dumb.
Yeah.
It was not by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it was a good movie, but
It was not, but...
No.
it was still cool. It's still cool.
I mean, there was still joy in watching
Giant
Godzilla fight
monsters,
King Ghidorah.
giant big
just
things.
ridiculous scope and scale of it.
cool.
Like, it was all the human stuff in those movies.
Dumb. No.
Just real bad. And I think King of the Monsters was the biggest culprit in that regard. I think the first Godzilla was fine enough. Like, they killed Bryan Cranston like 30 minutes in for some reason, even though he was the most interesting character, and that was like almost its biggest fault. And they also had Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver being married to each other, a little bit too close to the Ultimates universe for my liking, but it was fine. It was fine. Kong Skull Island had like 3,000 characters when it should have had
Never
like
watched it.
5. Well, you should watch it because
I think I own it.
but I
never seen it.
I mean, it's part of this, but and I think it might be on HBO at this point anyway too. So, I mean, they like. I don't think there's any reason that these movies can't be like legitimately kind of good in their own right, but they really, I think, have kind of leaned into the schlock value of them.
Oh, yeah. These are B movies. These are very big budget. I mean, look what they come from. I mean, it's not like the Toho movies that they're based on are some masterful works of
There's
art,
some
but
good
they have tons
Godzilla
of money.
though. Godzilla 2000,
yeah.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
No, joking. What was the Korean one? Is that just Godzilla? Shin Godzilla?
It was Japanese still, but
Japanese?
yeah, Shin Godzilla was. There are legitimately good like kaiju films out there. Like it's possible, and I think that I think 54 Godzilla is an example of that. And then it was after that when it was really just dress some dudes up in a suits and let them go to town to each other on a little mini set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
point remains.
That's what it turned into. But
point remains. It's a genre of film, and it's acceptable to be what it is.
Right.
yes,
I don't desire any more than seeing giant monsters fight. And on that principle alone, this trailer rocks my socks. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
King Kong with a fucking axe that he gets from a volcano or some shit. I don't know. He puts his hand on the wall, and then it comes out that he's got a giant axe that he captures the energy of fucking Godzilla's like plasma breath and just boom. And
It's atomic breath, my dude.
atomic breath. That's it. Dude, I'm going to turn it up so loud. And it's an IMAX. I might even go just see it in an IMAX.
This will be a spectacle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tempting. This is. I saw King of the Monsters, and these are the types of movies that thrive with the best audiovisual experience that you can gather. Andrew, if I had your setup, I'd probably just be content to watch it at home. Yeah. I don't, unfortunately, but
I'm excited about it in a big way.
I think this will be... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think there's a place in the world, especially now, for big, dumb movies that, like you said, it's a genre film, and do we give them a pass because they're a genre film for being poorly written with forgettable characters? Sure, because I'm going to be damn entertained.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's almost like a martial arts movie.
Yeah.
In a sort of way. Yeah.
You know, like I don't desire a whole lot. Is the choreography good? Is martial arts good? Well, how's that monster look? You know what I'm saying? How's it sound? Right. How's it look and how's it sound? Big monsters fighting. That's cool enough for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I think this is going to be at least a mediocre movie, or maybe at best a mediocre movie.
Right.
And at worst, like a bad movie. But I still fully expect to be entertained. I'm not really sure how King Kong wins this fight, because I feel like Godzilla, in theory, is like 3 times the size of him. Obviously, they've scaled King Kong up to make it a little bit more of a contest here, and they give him an axe to equal it out, too.
Yeah,
but
they gave him a fucking axe.
Godzilla is Godzilla. Godzilla should, go, just...
I saw a thing. I saw a rumor mill.
Else, but
they had Mechagodzilla somewhere. Man makes Mechagodzilla.
There is some rumblings that there might be a Mechagodzilla in this, which just feeds into the argument that if that comes true, I'm all in. Fucking Mechagodzilla. Oh, hell yeah. I'm all for that. That is just the right type of over-the-top shit I want.
And that's where these always go. Oh, the premise, they're going to bring people in with, watch these two fight, and then surprise, third act of the movie, oh, they're going to have to team up to fight the even worse
Godzilla turns out, or Godzilla's like a big bad. Not Godzilla. King Kong is a big bad, and he's got Godzilla on the fucking ropes, and here comes man with his Mechagodzilla power, like they're driving a fucking skid steer or something.
And it's going to be the only person controlling it is going to be Eleven. Or what's her... I forget her name, but the actress that plays 11.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Thank you. Yeah. She's just going to be inside it with her little kaiju control suit on.
She's going to be doing the drift.
Pacific Rim. Her and the girl that communicated with King Kong. They're drift compatible. Oh. Fucking give me a script and a budget. We'll make a movie.
Godzilla versus Kong, March 31st.
God, we got in the weeds. We got a lot to talk about, guys.
Sorry,
guys. Well, honestly, all right, so April, actually, there's really not a whole lot to touch on in April. April 2nd is Nobody. It's the Bob Odenkirk John Wick film that's not a John Wick film that we saw the trailer for a while back, which looks fine. They're coming to theaters. Right now, no streaming equivalent, but, fine. I don't really have a whole lot to say other than it's probably going to be a pretty entertaining version of what it's setting out to be, which is a slightly more humorous John Wick. Is all I kind of get from it.
Better Call John Wick.
Better Call John Wick. I think that's a great title, alternate title. I like it. I like it a lot. April 16th is a big one for me.
Fucking
one that I'm really, really curious about.
Mortal Kombat!
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm going to interject here. So, you post the motion posters on the thing on the Twitter?
They're on the Twitter.
Okay.
They're on the Twitter. Yeah.
Did anybody else read, like, the name of the thing as the names of the characters as the announcer when you went through it?
Just hear it.
Scorpion.
Hear it from the song.
Scorpion.
Sub-Zero. Sonya.
That's exactly what I did. I swear to God, I sat there and I read each character name when I clicked the fucking the Twitter thing that you had to click.
Mortal Kombat.
God damn it.
If that, look, we're laying down the law. If that song does not make an appearance in this movie, it is automatically bad.
Disqualified
From being good by virtue of it. Like, I'll take it in the credits. Fine if it's in the credits, it's a remix, whatever. As long as it's in there somewhere, it has to be in there.
I was about to ask if it's the epic orchestral version. That's still acceptable, right?
I think as long as they incorporate it somehow.
Yeah.
Sonya Blade.
Sub-Zero.
So this is an interesting one, you know.
Kung Lao.
We're unfortunately
Shang Tsung. You always kicked my ass at Mortal Kombat, but I always really fucking enjoyed it. Like, I just like Mortal Kombat a whole lot. I'm excited for a Mortal Kombat movie.
I am too, because it's been a long time since we've had a Mortal Kombat movie. We had two. I think one arguably good one and one that is inarguably terrible. And in the interim, the franchise has seen a huge resurgence in terms of the games. I think the reboot / whatever, followed by 10, followed by 11, I guess. I don't know what it was actually technically called.
They don't have a Johnny Cage, though, do they?
So I want to get to that. I do have thoughts about that. But it felt like it was high time for them to take another crack at making a movie out of it. And there's no Johnny Cage, so I guess I'll head on that now. But there is a poster for a character named Cole Young, who is not in the video games anywhere. I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan, I guess I'll say. I love these games. I love the old games. I was definitely too young to be playing them, but like whatever. It was who gives a shit. Like it's kind of how I feel about it. But I love me some Johnny Cage, and I'm a little disappointed at his lack of inclusion here, and the fact that apparently the main character of this movie is some made up bullshit character. That makes me worried about this movie. That they're not really trusting the mythos of the game and following it in such a way that they have to invent their own audience insert, blah blah blah, whatever. Like the good Mortal Kombat movie just fucking made Liu Kang its main character. Like, that was fine. There was really nothing inherently wrong with that. It made sense for the movie. So I am worried about that. But what I will also say, we got a limited amount of footage in the HBO trailer thing, and then these motion posters are showing the character designs. I think for the most part they look pretty good in my assessment.
They do.
I mean, they feel pretty accurate to the games. I think the Sub-Zero and Scorpion designs particularly are really, really on point. I guess one thing we got the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series a little while back, which was okay, I guess. But
I never watched that. I didn't know that came out.
This just feels like, pretty authentic Mortal Kombat. Like, it really does feel like they're giving it an earnest attempt, and it feels like, like I have qualms about the main character being some rando, but like, other than that, it looks pretty good. Like fucking Shang Tsung, that's the fucking guy from The Dark Knight, but he looks like fucking Shang Tsung here. So, it's some badass shit. And I don't know. I am excited about it. So, I brought it up. I'll hand it off now at this point. How does everyone else feel about Mortal Kombat April 16th, also on HBO Max?
I mean, I see it as scratching the same itch for me as Godzilla vs. Kong. It's going to be
fair.
It can be a genre film as long as it's better than the aforementioned terrible one. Doesn't need to be high art.
Was that Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I think is what it's called, something like that?
That would be the one.
Yeah. I purged most of those memories, but and I'm seeing that this is R-rated. I'm looking at the Twitter now.
Goddamn right.
I think
so. We're going to get at least one
fatality,
spinal cord, right? I mean, we got to get at least one of those, or is that going to be too extreme for an R rating? I don't know.
I think you got to lean into it if you're going to do it R, rated R. Like, honestly, and the R rating, you can get away with a lot of violence. You show a titty, or a vagina, you might be fucked a little bit, but you can usually get away with some spine rips. I mean, we saw it in Predator. I guess it was sort of off screen, I guess, for that, but I think you can do it. I think you can get bloody and violent and really hit the core of what Mortal Kombat was just like fucking pure brutality for it. But I think maybe to follow up a little bit on your Godzilla versus Kong comment, I think it's an apt comparison, because in Godzilla versus Kong, you want good monster versus monster combat. And in this, you need good hand-to-hand combat. You know, I guess it's even the martial arts comparison. Like, Mortal Kombat is a fucking fighting tournament. Like, there better be some good fights in this shit. And obviously you want, like, some blood to be spilled and some, you know, some brutal fatalities to kind of happen at some point. But
at the end of the day, you want badass martial arts.
Yeah.
And you want over-the-top martial arts is what you want.
Yeah.
And hopefully you take, like, I just picture for a Mortal Kombat movie, John Wick times 11. You know what I mean? Just ridiculous, just blood and gore and fucking punching and kicking and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I'm real excited about it.
Little magic, little, like, you know, ice and fire powers and electricity and all that.
And that thing that they released with Sub-Zero, like, he's like gathering the strength of the fucking ice and pulling the ice up out of the ground and stuff.
Stab someone with it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can do all sorts of cool stuff.
I just hope that it doesn't turn into, oh, look at all these cool motion posters of characters that you're going to see very briefly. Like, sure. I hope it doesn't turn into, this is really about, I hope this doesn't turn into, they wanted to make a movie about this Cole Young character, and then they decided, wait a minute, we can make this a Mortal Kombat movie. Let's do that, and then just shoehorn it in. Because you bring up your concerns about not having Johnny Cage and having this rando in here. Well, that could blow up in our faces and really be, it could be one of those movies that disappoints us with, like, wait a minute, that wasn't even like Mortal Kombat. I don't think that'll be the case, but I've been burned before, so I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah. My other one hesitation, and then we'll move on, since we should probably move on, is that it's being directed by someone who's never directed a film before, and so, you know, that cuts both ways. You got to let someone have a shot at some point, but this does feel like an
child grew up loving Mortal Kombat, Colton. Some dude.
I hope so. I hope so. For the sake of this film, I hope it's a passion project.
My life has amounted to me directing a Mortal Kombat film.
Hey, look, you know, I think, you know, if I knew what directing entailed, I could make a mean Mortal Kombat film based on my experiences with Mortal Kombat. Like, I could have a very specific vision for it, which is probably not one that features Cole Young as the main character, but, you know.
Fucking Cole Young.
Maybe
Cole Young's an alias, dude.
You're going to love this guy. I bet you're going to love him.
I mean, maybe Cole Young is just Johnny Cage, and Johnny Cage is his stage name, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I don't know why we had to hide that fact, but...
They John Harrison or Talia al Ghul.
Yep. Like, fine, weird approach, like, you know, weird flex, dude, but, like, fine if that's how they go with it, but... Yeah. So anyway, I'm pretty psyched on Mortal Kombat. Unfortunately, we're recording just a day too soon because we will be getting the trailer a day after we record. So I'm imagining the next time Andrew and I convene, we'll be talking some more Mortal Kombat because we didn't talk about it enough now. Last thing in April 30th, coming to Amazon Prime, Without Remorse. It's based on a Tom Clancy book, stars Michael B. Jordan, and it is written by Taylor Sheridan, something that was supposed to come out last year. And Amazon bought the rights to it, and now they're turning it into a streaming release. So, fine. It's a spinoff of Jack Ryan. So Jack Ryan, as far as I know, is not in this, but the main character is John Clark, who is sort of another agent in the Jack Ryan series, who is, I think, kind of been somewhat of an adversary, but not like an outright villain or anything like that. So, anyway.
Okay.
I'll wait for a trailer on it, but I think, it sounds like it could be pretty cool. Michael B. Jordan's great, so it's something, I'd say. Director that did the second Sicario, not Denny, but the other guy. So yeah, that's April. May is kind of an interesting pivot point. I think May is clearly where studios are anticipating that feeders are hopefully up and running and in a semi-normal state such that they don't have to keep shifting their shit around and can kind of just move things along. And I think that you'll notice, I think our listeners will notice that a lot of the movies from this point on, with some limited exceptions, are all movies that should have been out last year, that were scheduled to come out last year and obviously didn't make it because of the status of theaters and, the status of like people dying and stuff too. So, and getting sick, even if they're not dying, getting sick and wanting to stay at home and not spread viruses and such. So that that probably suggests that, some of these, some of them we can probably brush through because we've seen a lot of things on them. We know a lot about them. We probably talked about them roughly a year ago and such. And so the first of those is May 7th's Black Widow, which, we hit on the MCU stuff a lot. Obviously, to follow up on where we kind of went with that, it's a prequel. In a certain sort of way. It's not a post-Endgame film, as far as we're aware. Don't think it will be unless there's some bookends or something like that to kind of set it up. But fine, give it to me. I know I'm ready for it at this point. No indication that it's going to go to Disney Plus in the Premier Access model, but I think if things are still pretty bad in May, or at least not good enough in May minimally, I think that it's going to be something that I think that they'll have to explore it as a viable option. But Dan, obviously we haven't heard from you on any of these things. So Black Widow, and any thoughts you want to add?
I'm kind of with you guys on that. I mean, I feel like it's been ages since we actually were part of the hype, the initial build up for this film. And so I had this weird feeling like they almost dropped it off. Like, I don't know, and I feel like we're not even getting a lot of press from it now, and we're not seeing it push now. I'll be curious to see what kind of lead up we get to it. Mm-hmm. Also, for me, from a story standpoint, I wonder if it was a mistake to release this movie now and not pre-Endgame, because we know where this character ends up. I hope that they find a way to, like you said in the bookends, do something that makes us say, "Oh, this really is bigger than we thought." Because it's been a while since we had just a truly standalone MCU movie like this.
My expectation is you don't cast Florence Pugh for her to be in one movie, and so I think if nothing else, it could end up being a passing of the torch type thing when all is said and done. Would be kind of my expectation for how it impacts the future of the MCU, other than maybe just adding some more depth, and finally having a long overdue film about Black Widow that I think people have been clamoring for a while. So looking forward to it. We'll see. Yeah, the marketing thing I think is an interesting to note. I really think Disney is playing it cautiously because there's a very good chance this doesn't come out in May like they want it to, or they have to retool their marketing strategy to accommodate for a Disney Plus debut as well. So we'll see. Andrew, Black Widow thoughts? You good?
I just like to eventually watch it. So. I don't know.
At some point in the future, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it ever. I don't think I've ever felt particularly super excited about it. I've always been interested. I thought it would be totally fine. It's not what I expected from Black Widow, like a standalone Black Widow film. I always expected 007. But obviously that's not what we're getting, and that's totally fine. Let's see what happens. So, thoughts on that.
Yep. Those Who Wish Me Dead is another May film.
Taylor fucking Sheridan.
Directed by Taylor fucking Sheridan, based on a novel, Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult, John Bernthal, Tyler Perry. Another HBO Max simultaneous debut, neo-Western, whatever. I'm in. I'll watch it. I think at this point I'll probably follow the same principle of Andrew with the HBO Max stuff, because why not? If I'm already paying for it, I might as well enjoy their theatrical content effectively. But
Taylor Sheridan, enough said. That's about my opinion about that.
All right. Yeah. Let me rattle off the next few, and then we can backtrack if we need to. 21st, Free Guy. Also the 21st, Spiral from the Book of Saw. And then 28th, F9, the long-awaited 9th entry in the Fast and Furious franchise. Those are all 2020 films that have been pushed, obviously to 2021. Selfishly speaking, F9 is probably the most interesting of those three for me, just because I can't help but be, that's another Godzilla versus Kong situation of like, oh my God, how bad is this fucking stupid movie going to be? But I cannot wait to enjoy and revel in almost every second of it. Something that just is content to just roll around in its own ridiculousness and such. So, of those three, anything worth talking about more extensively for you guys? Waiting a year on some of these things, or close to it, or by the time it comes out anyway. But
no,
Not
Not
really.
really.
I think if people wanted more, there's a reason Fast and Furious is still popular, but if people wanted more Saw, then Jigsaw would have done well. I think we're done with that franchise.
Or the five that preceded that or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And so, last but not least for May, Cruella, another Disney attempt at making a villain-centered film. They did the Maleficent films. It's Emma Stone. She's Cruella de Vil. I guess it's a sort of origin story for Cruella. I assume pre-101 Dalmatians story, or maybe it kind of dives into that at some point. We actually got the trailer for this today, very timely, unlike Mortal Kombat. Andrew has given me a face, and I think I just have to turn it over to him because he seems to have some thoughts ready to go.
This movie looks like big shit. Like Disney's like, hey, we need to cash in on that Harley Quinn. We're gonna make a Harley Quinn movie.
Definitely got some Harley Quinn vibes, and honestly, some Joker, Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker vibes. And it's a Disney movie too, so it's all very
this
weird
looks
and
like
interesting.
big shit. Like I get it out of here.
Big doo-doo this time, Disney.
You should have fucking released that in 2020, and we don't need this. This is no good. Like you took everything from the 101 Dalmatians and just shit all over them. All those dogs, you just shit on all of those dogs. Fucking Cruella de Vil. I'm a bank robber that's gonna spray paint the side of a building in neon. No, you're not. You're fucking Harley Quinn. Stupid.
It's got that. The trailer's got that fun little,
I'm a woman. Hear me roar.
Hunger Games moment where she burns the dress off and
That was pretty. That was pretty sick. I'd like to know how she pulled that one off.
In the 70s. I guess in the 70s that was a thing.
Yeah, we don't have that technology anymore, or magic, or whatever it was. Dan, are you of a negative mind to this one, like Andrew?
I think there's a reason that I remember when Maleficent came out. I thought that all the live actions were going to be kind of like, we're going to do live action, but they're going to be sort of from the villain standpoint. I think there's a reason they didn't go that route,
because
I don't think
it's just shit.
No, really, and it kind of worked for Maleficent. Although I don't like those movies. I think they're weird. They're just, and I like fantasy, but those aren't my cup of tea. But this is not it. Why set it in the 70s? Emma Stone is a decent actress.
She's an excellent actress.
Why waste her on this when she could be Cruella in an actual 101 Dalmatians live action that could have been good, where she could be a side character?
Because they said, Emma, we can pay you like we're paying Margot Robbie, and this is your role. Oh. Okay.
I'm gonna go on the other side again. I think for this one, not that I think it looks good, but I kind of understand the approach, and Mulan was a very different iteration than its animated counterpart. In a way that The Lion King was not. The Lion King was a carbon copy, and they've done that a couple times where they've just really tried to hew so closely to the original animated film that it's just been a question of why bother. This is not one of those cases, clearly.
No,
clearly. And so I respect the audacity to craft an origin story of sorts for Cruella de Vil. And I think Emma Stone's great, and I think she's probably going to kill it here. I do think it's probably going to be somewhat of a Joker situation where you can still have a good performance in a film that otherwise doesn't really work, I think, at least in my assessment. I also just think there's no way you make this character likable.
No.
And I think that's going to be a big problem, And again, I think that's something that Joker struggled with too, was the Joker's not supposed to be a likable character. He's supposed to be crazy and out there and compelling because you can't keep your eyes off him, but you're not supposed to like him. And Cruella de Vil wants to skin Dalmatians so she can wear their fur. And I'm like,
right.
I don't think anyone's really about
Why
that.
are you going to
life.
center the fucking movie around that fucking person?
What trauma makes you think, what I can see? To compare this to Beauty and the Beast, because the Beauty and the Beast live action, I think the reason that I like that, and you guys might disagree, is because it takes the original, and it gives it more context. All of the characters have more explanation for their motivations, including the villain. Gaston goes from being a, just, okay, why is he the tough guy that suddenly, is evil, to, oh, he's a PTSD soldier, he's got serious issues, oh, and he tries to murder her father. Spoiler alert. I don't see how you do that with Cruella, but even though I think I'm with Andrew on this one, I could be turned if they do give the character more context. And if they do answer that question of how the hell do we make Cruella de Vil, animal killer, likable?
Yeah.
I don't think they will, but...
How do you make a sympathetic character out of that trailer that we had?
But on the other hand, can they go in the opposite direction and just make her unlikable but still be the main character? Like, I don't know. Like, that seems like it's probably not a terribly enjoyable film to watch, but... I mean, and it's Disney, so they're almost certainly not doing a thing where their main character is going to be unlikable. It's just really not their brand, of course. But I don't know. I mean, could you just have something purely from the perspective of a villain and an unredeemable, basically, villain, and maybe we get a little context for what took her down this path? But I don't know. I don't think Disney's going to pull it off. I think is probably the bottom line. But again, I do respect the audacity of trying to make it happen. I just don't see it, but whatever. It's happening. May 28th.
I'm sure we'll cover it.
We kind of have to, I feel like, at this point. Although, it's apparently going to come out the same day as F9, so what are you going to do? It's a real tough one.
Double feature.
Yeah. Couple feature. All right, June, and again, we're getting into some territory. Some new things in here, actually. Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It. HBO Max, the 18th, and The Heights. Some Lin-Manuel Miranda goodness there as well. Also on HBO Max, so you got those two coming out. Obviously, you got a very big horror vibe, and then you have a musical, two very different films. Dan, are you a Conjuring film franchise fan?
I am. I haven't seen all the films. The only one I've seen enough to remember much of is the first one, but I stand by those are good horror films. I mean, you play with a little bit of that quasi history with I forget their names, but the main characters being real people. I think you have something good there. Yeah. Will it be great? I highly doubt it. But will people go see it? Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. And to follow up on the Hamilton thought, I'm going to watch anything Lin-Manuel Miranda does, so I'm in for In the Heights. I think the show itself is supposed to be very good. This is a proper movie adaptation, not like a film version like Hamilton was, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works out. But there's that. Also on the 18th of June is Luca, the next Pixar film to look forward to, which I think just from the concept art looks very beautiful. So I'm excited about that. I know Andrew and I have talked about that. Pixar, I think, did pretty well in 2020. I know, despite my misgivings with Onward initially. And Soul was, Andrew liked it. For anyone that listened to the last episode, Andrew liked it.
Soul's fucking incredible.
just to hit on that again, but
real good movie.
I'm excited for more Pixar stuff, and I think it's like set in Italy, and I don't know, just seems like it's going to be very cool.
Pixar knows how to make sand. Or is that DreamWorks?
DreamWorks is one of those make sand. Pixar's got their lighting technology down to a T. I think at this point. Okay, that's what it is. And June 25th. We may not be getting Morbius in 2021, but God damn it, let there be carnage. And let there be Venom, let there be carnage.
Fuck.
How'd you feel about that first Venom movie, Dan?
It was better than Spider-Man 3. We have a Venom that is Venom. I didn't love it. Didn't hate it.
But are you ready for us to let there be carnage? Are you ready for it? Woody Harrelson's back with his wig, baby. He's back.
Jesus Christ.
Let's just say I hope he's in the suit most of the time without the wig, but I'll take it. I mean, we haven't seen a modern live action Carnage, have we? So I mean that's
we
cool.
Have not. No, we have not.
I mean there's something to be said for that. I still think it's I don't love that they can't work these into the MCU. I like when things make sense. Even in film universes of fictional superheroes with alien symbiotes, but I'll take it. It'll be fun. Or terrible. I don't know.
I think Andrew's ready for Carnage. I can tell. It's another one. He's thinking, man, Cruella and Venom, Let There Be Carnage. If only they could have those on the same day, I could have a great double feature at the theater.
That's it. Let's get the schlock out in one day. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy the first Venom. Thought that was a big misstep. Thought it was real bad. I think Carnage in the comic books is cool. I think Venom's cool in the comic books, to be fair, but yeah, it's not what I wanted in a Venom movie. I feel like there's this big push to make villains like likable and sympathetic. Like there's no need. Like what's wrong with having a villain? You know what I'm saying? Like what's wrong is it, I don't Joker, Venom, Cruella.
Noir.
I just, I don't know.
Venom has at least has an anti-hero bent to it. The thing with Venom
Yes.
in the comics and in any other media is he hated Spider-Man, understandably. Or Spider-Man or Peter Parker, one of the two. He hated him, but then when there was a worse threat, he's like, "Oh, wait a minute! I'm not just like a mindless murderer. I'll kill people to get what I want." Whereas I like the play of, okay, Carnage is just
Carnage is literally a serial killer
with a
with
symbiote.
superpowers added.
Yeah.
But you know why that I don't think this works is they're all supposed to be juxtaposed as villains to Spider-Man.
Right.
And without
Yeah.
Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Verse that had Spider-Man but then lost Spider-Man, but now
No, Venom's the hero and against Carnage, that's presumably that's the angle, right?
I guess.
I'm sure, yeah. And I think that works in a vacuum, Venom versus Carnage. Like, Venom's, yeah, again, like, I'm bad, but, like, this guy's a serial killer who's out here just, like, ripping limbs off people, like, I don't stand for that shit. I'm a reporter. I'm Eddie Block,
God, yeah, I forgot all about that shit. That movie was fucking terrible.
But I 100% agree with Dan, and I think that's the fundamental undoing of all these Sony side charades that they're doing is like these characters don't really work as well without Spider-Man, and someone like Venom is really intrinsically linked to Spider-Man, and obviously they did it in a way that they were able to separate it, but like it's just not as compelling. It just doesn't work as well. These characters make a lot more sense when they're bouncing off the characters that are kind of the reason for their existence. And like Carnage exists because of Venom, so like fine, whatever. But again, Venom really only existed because of Spider-Man, and like to just take that all out just undermines all of it, And I'm not excited for it, but
Really wish I was getting Morbius instead.
I'll watch it or whatever. So, but we are running long in the tooth. So, and we do have quite a few movies to cover. So I am gonna attempt to pick up the pace, and we'll see how we do. We may yet go for another hour, perhaps, but we're gonna try to avoid that if at all possible. So moving into July, we've got another half a year to cover, but don't worry, we'll get through it. July is going to bring us Top Gun Maverick, which I know Andrew is very excited for, July 2nd. I think maybe I'll start doing some highlights of it instead of being as exhaustive as I want to be. How's that? We'll skip Minions: The Rise of Gru. We don't really need to say it. We don't need to talk about it other than to say that it's a thing that happened, and I don't care. The Forever Purge, I also do not care. Cinderella, they're making another one. Fine, don't really care. The Tomorrow War, I don't really know what it is. If a trailer comes out, call me. So let's leave it at that, and then go with Top Gun. I think everyone's on board for Top Gun. Dan, you on board for some more Top Gun, some Tom Cruise?
Top fucking Gun, dude.
Give it to me. That's all I need.
Okay,
Just give
great,
me some Top Gun.
perfect.
Top Gun IMAX. Get your vaccine.
IMAX.
We're meeting at the IMAX theater to watch Top Gun.
Wear your Maverick mask.
I don't live 2 hours away like I used to, so it might be a little more difficult for me, but you guys can make it happen. July 9th, here's a big one, another MCU entry, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
This is huge.
I'm very excited about this one. And I do hope that it makes that July date. I hope that, everything is able to kind of work out that it can make that date, because this is one that I think we always would have gotten in 2021, but it might have been, I think it was a May date. I think basically where Black Widow stands, Shang-Chi was supposed to come out on that date once upon a time. So I'm excited about it. I think, it's obviously a huge thing in terms of representation, and obviously, Disney, Marvel Studios, I guess more particularly, choosing to take an Asian superhero and make that their focus. We haven't seen that from the MCU. They are a little bit slow on the uptake in terms of representation, but I suppose they're getting there, and better late than never. Now that they're out of the shadow of Ike Perlmutter, Kevin Feige can run rampant and, be the social justice warrior that everyone was afraid would happen. I'm joking, of course, and being facetious about all that stuff, but, great. Awesome. I love it. I really appreciate, the diversity that Marvel Studios is seemingly embracing at this point, and I think that this is a huge step in the right direction for them. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of all the content that's come before, but you can look at the lack of diversity up until probably Black Panther, more or less, and obviously Captain Marvel was a big step too. It just feels like they're trending in the right direction with a lot of these things, and a lot of this stuff is just really overdue. And I think if Black Panther is that barometer, there's no reason that this can't have the same type of success. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Obviously, COVID's a huge factor to still consider, and when you're putting it out even in July. But hell yeah, I want it. I'm excited for it, and we got Awkwafina in this one too. So there you go.
Bottom line is we are going to get a mainstream, heavy budget, kung fu infused karate film. The likes the world has never seen. The world has never seen a Disney-backed, budgeted film, karate film.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen anything like that before. It's going to be so ridiculously awesome. The bar is set so high, just based on the financial means that they have backing them. The fact that I mean, every resource in the earth is available to these people to make an excellent movie, and an excellent. This is the fucking cinnamon wheat ice cream.
Iron Fist.
This is the Iron Fist we deserved.
Sure,
and we're getting it, and I could not be more excited.
And I'll just add, the only thing I'll add is I'm excited to see that we're going to get like a proper Mandarin.
Yeah,
After
definitely.
we all complained about how so Iron Man's arch enemy is a joke, but then they had that little short that they released where they teased that, oh no, there is a real Mandarin who's pissed about all this, and now we get to see that, but we get to see it in a whole different context.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board. I want it to succeed. I want it to be awesome. I want it to be the next. Holy smokes, that shouldn't have been as good as it is, but here we are, and Shang-Chi can be the next, Iron Man in 10 years. When
I want an incredibly awesome genre film. I want a hardcore. I want the Raid, Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it, obviously. July 16th, Space Jam: A New Legacy, coming to HBO Max. LeBron James filling the shoes of Michael Jordan.
Space Jam,
if such a thing is even possible. Right. I like that. I like that for a Space Jam. I do enjoy it quite a bit. And I know people are kind of iffy on like the concept of doing a new one, but like I'm down. It looks very colorful from the snippets that we saw.
Are they drawing on Bugs Bunny and like the Looney Tunes?
I think Toon Squad's going to be back.
I
don't know if the Monstars will be back, but the Toon Squad's got to be back.
The Monstars.
See if they can get Bill Murray to show up again. Maybe if they throw enough money at him, he'll do it. But
yeah, I'm all about it. I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Cool. What else? July 23rd, we did get a Super Bowl spot for it, the big game spot, because they can't use the word Super Bowl, it's trademarked or whatever, for Old. The latest from everyone's favorite auteur, director M. Night Shyamalan, in which
people
weird
age.
Shit is happening on a beach where they rapidly age. It's a funky situation that they find themselves in, and
does have the kid who
that
bust his face up against the desk and broke his nose.
Yeah,
It's got him in it.
it does have him in it. We know that master storyteller M. Night Shyamalan will not let us down the way that he definitely didn't let us down with Glass or anything like that. So,
Or the fucking trees.
or any of the other shit that he's made past like his first 3 films or whatever. But
What's that movie with the trees where it makes the trees make you commit suicide?
the Happening, I think.
The Happening. Yeah, there's that. I don't know.
Where's Marky Mark? Why didn't they put Marky Mark in this one too? What's going on with that?
It's probably the same universe, so that they can't.
That would be good.
Cross-pollinate.
I like that.
Oh, then the trees on the island are making people old. No,
That's the twist.
coral
That's the
reefs, they
Shyamalan
go
twist.
swimming.
The coral, yeah. It's the plankton in the water.
Ooh, the plankton.
The microorganisms.
I like
or
it.
maybe it was just the stress of 2020. Just ate them like it did all of us.
Yeah, that's it.
Real
Who the
villain
fuck
was
knows what's
2020
going
all
on
along.
with it? We can cover it on the 23rd. We'll talk about it then.
We'll talk about it then. Rounding out July, Jungle Cruise. You got some more Rock and Emily Blunt, and I don't know what else is on that, but it's coming out on the 30th. But it has to make way for the real star of the show on the 30th.
I know what I'm going to watch.
A24 is finally bringing us The Green Knight.
Finally.
I've been looking forward to this film for more than I've been looking forward to a film ever, I think. 2 years. I bought a board game that nobody wants to play with me.
I want to play it. I do want to play it.
I just
We'll do this.
I am so excited about The Green Knight. I often look at my board game that no one wants to play with me and just God, I'd like
Just
to play
shake
this.
your head.
I just really want to play this game. I just want to watch this movie. I bought the game because I want to watch the movie. I couldn't get the movie, so I got the game. I'm very excited about The Green Knight finally coming out. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed out for another year. Yeah, I'm real excited about it. It looks so fucking good. Have you seen the trailer, Dan, for The Green Knight?
Oh, I have. No, and it absolutely looks like what you'd expect from A24 telling it their version of an Arthurian legend, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. We're all here for it, for sure.
So good.
Yeah. August. Let's just I think August 6th is a big one. The Suicide Squad, HBO Max, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, hopefully correcting the errors of the previous entry in that franchise. Beyond that, August 13th, Respect is an Aretha Franklin biopic. Should be pretty good. Jennifer Hudson taking the lead role there. I put a movie called Deep Water on the list because it's a Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas film. And unfortunately, they headed to Splitsville fairly recently. I don't know if you guys happened to see the life-size cardboard cutout that Ben Affleck apparently had of her. That was, paparazzi took pictures of it and his dumpster outside of his house, which is just fucking hilarious.
Oh, Googling that now.
And so, yes, I put that movie that I know nothing about in here purely because I knew that they were in it, and I wanted to bring that fact up because I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast before. But it's just fucking hilarious. I urge you to look at it as I talk about other things.
someone's fishing it out too.
Holy shit. That is the most incredible.
The garbage guy's just looking at it like, what the? Oh, this is cool.
Ana de Armas life-size kind of thrown a bit of electricity.
Oh my god.
That is the most.
Well, and looking at the movie, it reads a married couple who have fallen out of love with each other because playing deadly mind games. Oh boy.
One of the mind games is throwing out the life-size cardboard cutout.
God damn. That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
And all the reshirts they did
Oh,
with the
poor
cutout,
Ben
they still had
Affleck.
to pay.
Ben Affleck's a troubled soul. Poor guy. Oh, fuck.
All right, I'm going to compose
That
myself
made
as I
my
can.
stomach hurt. They got her laying on the grass next to the bushes. Hot damn.
August 13th, Bios, a Tom Hanks sci-fi film. August 13th, Don't Breathe 2, hopefully with fewer turkey basters in it. August 20th, finally getting The King's Man. That's been delayed. That's really the new Mutants at this point. That shit's been fucking delayed like 30 times, and half of those times weren't even COVID related. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Candyman, finally getting the Candyman sequel, I guess, reboot. I'm not sure like what the
reboot. I think it's just a reboot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With Jordan Peele produced, Nia DaCosta directed.
He's a master. He didn't direct it though. Ooh, that's scary.
He did not direct it, but yeah. But I'm sure he was involved heavily if I had to mention.
Why do you have a life-size cutout of your girlfriend in your house?
You don't?
I thought everyone did.
I have 3, yeah.
How do you acquire that? In what room does the cardboard cutout sit?
The bedroom, obviously.
And when do you get rid of it? How long do you sit on it?
Rid of it?
Just have it in the corner of your room for like a week and like, I can't look at you anymore.
Like he doesn't even fold up the cardboard. The cardboard was not even folded up into the trash can.
Chuck the whole thing in. It's just sticking out.
I wonder, is there a video
shit down in the trash can?
Is there video footage of Ben
I don't know if there is.
The cardboard cutout of his wife?
I just need a montage of that cut with the sad Ben Affleck meme that we got during the Batman v Superman press tour.
I had a dream.
I had a dream.
A premonition.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I missed the whole month worth of movies.
I don't know if he missed a whole lot. Candyman, I think, is probably the big one in there.
That is a big one.
And I'm looking forward to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad for sure. And then August 27th as well, we're getting the Beatles Get Back. We talked about Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson's documentary at the making of
6.5 hour film of the Beatles.
Might be.
From
56 hours of footage?
56 hours of footage that he's working through.
James Cameron got... not James Cameron, Jesus Christ.
Peter
Jackson just got really 56 hours worth of footage.
I was like, shit, I could cut this into like a 51 or 52 hour film. Actually, no, I can cut it into 3 4-hour films that have absolutely no business being this long.
That's what you can do.
Well, see, it was going to be a 2-parter, and then you decided to make it a trilogy using a lot of reshoots and unedited footage.
We're gonna manipulate the film to make it shot at 60 frames. We want to put that shit out in 60 frames per second. Fucking Beatles at 60 frames. Anyways, that I will say, all jokes aside, I really enjoyed the sneak peek of the movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We got like a 5-minute long sneak peek.
It was well done.
Peter
it was
Jackson
very
talking about kind of his approach and process, and then getting just kind of a look at.
And none of us need
the type of footage that is there. So
none of us need to see the entire 56 hours. But I'm not going to lie. Seeing an hour and a half, 2-3 hours of real, just raw footage of the Beatles, as a Beatles fan, as a classic rock fan, and I appreciate what they did for music.
I'd watch it.
I'll watch it. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I'd go to see it in a theater. I'd want to watch it at home, where I can pause it and all that good stuff. But
yeah, and that's kind of interesting because on. So the sneak peek was uploaded to the Beatles YouTube page, and on there it specifically mentions theaters and Disney Plus. I don't think it's a simultaneous type thing, but presumably it's theaters initially and then Disney Plus later. So it should be coming to streaming at some point. So,
and that's the kind of movie that I could see my dad got me into classic rock, so I could absolutely see myself going to see that with my mom and dad and. Actually having a very pleasant time at the movies with them, because it's something we all share. So I think that documentary will
be
definitely
good.
fill. Yeah. Wholesome. Probably very wholesome. We need that.
Yeah.
And it's Peter Jackson. He's adorable. So.
Mm-hmm.
He also found a very subtle, to bring it back to the beginning of the month. What's John Cena say about braggers? In that trailer, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember the line or anything. No.
He's like, nobody likes a bragger except if you're bragging about what you're. I can't remember what he says. Peter Jackson finds a very subtle way to brag about New Zealand's handling of COVID.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was great.
I thought that was pretty great.
It's like, since we seem to have it.
Well, we couldn't put this movie out sooner, but now that New Zealand's managed to totally squash fucking coronavirus, here we are. We're editing it. We'll give you a little sample of what we've done so far.
All we had to do was follow some simple, procedures and get everyone on board and not be a bunch of selfish dickheads, and we managed to get rid of it. You can cut that out if it's too spicy.
No, not at all.
Too much
Not at all.
politics on this.
We embrace the spicy sometimes. We've embraced the spicy a lot more of late. I think we've been pushed in that direction, and you're either here for it or you're not, and it is what it is what we have to say about it. But what we can say about films in 2021 is that we are going into September. Let me just rattle these things off, and we'll go from there. Resident Evil, we're getting another Resident Evil, and I say another one. Fortunately, this is a reboot. This is not a Mila Jovovich-led Resident Evil. This is a full-on reboot with the new cast, and it actually seems like they're using characters from the games. Go figure. I'm not sure why they would do such a ridiculous thing, but I guess you're allowed to do that. Jackass 4, September 3rd. Apparently, sans Bam Margera, who was kicked off the film, and I am worried about his state, to be honest. Malignant is another horror film. I think a James Wan involved horror film coming to HBO Max. Followed by Quiet Place Part 2 on the 17th. Death on the Nile, starring everyone's favorite cannibal, Armie Hammer, on the 17th.
Goddamn, the personal news. We need to turn our podcast into like a Stars. Just talk about this.
We're a goss pod now.
You'll never get anything out of me other than gas of air. I can't. Starring everybody's favorite Hannibal.
Yeah, what were they thinking casting Maz for that role? What are they doing? They should have got Army for that shit. He would have owned it. I mean, he would have felt really authentic in that role. It's kind of like, maybe this is a bad comparison and perhaps an insensitive one, but there was a television show, You, on Netflix, and there's a pedophile character in there who is played by Chris D'Elia, who, lo and behold, is an actual pedophile. It's the Kevin Spacey kind of thing of just being like, they're so good at playing these sorts of roles. How do they do it? And you just got to be yourself, apparently. That's what you got to do. It's gross. I don't mean to make light of pedophilia, obviously, but it's a really fucked up thing that obviously has happened, obviously on more than one occasion, which is pretty heinous in its own right. But to round out September 24th, a couple releases: The Many Saints of Newark on HBO Max. That's the Sopranos prequel, and then Dear Evan Hansen's getting a film adaptation from its stage iteration. So September, what stands out for anyone? Anything?
Resident Evil, Jackass 4, A Quiet Place 2, and Death on the Nile.
Okay, we got four hits for Andrew. What about you, Dan? Any hits for you?
Honestly, for me, it's just Quiet Place 2, but mostly because the first one was good, but I keep forgetting that movie was supposed to be a 2020 release. It should have existed and then just fell off with everything else.
That was like a March. It was one that was
early
like
in the
2
year,
weeks away from coming out.
That was
when theaters kind of got fucked up. So, or
and,
April, maybe, whatever. But yeah,
I loved Murder on the Orient Express, so I'm excited for Death on the Nile. It'll be fun. I love Kenneth Branagh, so I'm here. Bring it.
October 1st is obviously a big one.
Oh.
Dune arrives in theaters and HBO Max.
Oh my God! What a year, or not what a year? What a month!
There's some good stuff in October for sure. But certainly kickstarting with Dune might be the high point in some ways. I mean, the cast alone is kind of enough said kind of thing, but bringing a
IMAX, going to IMAX.
Bringing, one of the quintessential, I think, science fiction novels of all time, having Denis Villeneuve behind the camera with that stacked cast, Villeneuve, as he's sometimes known, the pieces are there for Dune to just own like we thought it was going to own December of 2020 and perhaps all of 2020, in fact, and we didn't get that opportunity to see it. But I think we'll see it this year. I do think so. So I'm looking forward to it, obviously.
It's just got a perfect storm of things that should work between everything you mentioned in the cast, the notoriety and the fame that it has. And there's just a part of me, though, that I'm afraid, like, oh, crap, what if this is another one of those, like, we all expect it to be amazing, and then it comes in, and I'm a little worried, but I'm cautiously optimistic, because the trailer looks amazing, the cast looks amazing, and this is, a seminal work in science fiction that deserves a modern take on it, and I'm so glad that we're going to get it, and I'm so glad that we're going to be getting to watch it at home on HBO Max, thanks to the HBO Max Warner Brothers deal.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little worried that it doesn't do super well financially. I think that's my bigger concern. Like, I feel good about the movie itself, but I'm worried that they spent a lot of money on a movie that could fall flat. But I do think that its cast, I think, appeals to a lot of different markets. I think Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, I think, Jason Momoa, they all kind of appealed, I think, to different types of audiences, and that, might be a perfect storm situation too. So we'll kind of have to wait and see, but I'm very curious and very excited, obviously. October 8th, No Time to Die, at long last. Another one that's been delayed 4 or 5 times, I feel like, at this point. Turns out there was, in fact, plenty of time to die. Not the first one to have made that joke, I'll confess, but it is what it is. I'm looking forward to it. Some more Ana de Armas in it. Cardboard cutout or not.
It's the most ridiculous news I've ever heard.
I have a premonition, a dream that movie will at least be passably good.
The rest of October 15th, we got Halloween Kills, the follow-up to the most recent Halloween sequel, I guess it was technically. Direct sequel to the first one. The Last Duel, which is, I think, Matt Damon. I forget who's directing it, but I feel like it's...
Ridley Scott.
I thought it was Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
I thought it was, but I wanted
Scott.
to fact check it. So Andrew's really looking forward to it.
I just looked it
heels
up.
Of Raised by Wolves.
It is written. The screenplays by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
All right, Good Will Hunting team reunited. Hell yeah.
Oh, Ben, listen to me. Got to get rid of the fucking cardboard cutout. We need to write this fucking duel movie.
That's what the movie's about. It's the duel between Ben and Anna. Matt Damon's an arbitrator.
Guest starring cardboard cutout of Ana de Armas.
He comes into the duel and places the cardboard cutout on the side of the field. Oh, mercy
October
me.
22nd. Snake Eyes and The Last Night in Soho. Snake Eyes is indeed the G.I. Joe's Snake Eyes. And Last Night Soho is the next Edgar Wright film. So that's exciting. And then October 29th, and just in time for Halloween, you get Antlers, which is another one that was supposed to have come out ages ago.
Is that the Guillermo del Toro movie? Or
Might have been produced. He didn't direct it, but it might have been Del Toro produced.
with the kid yeah, holy shit. How long is this movie? This movie's been around forever.
I think it was supposed to come out in April of last year, so yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was really excited about Antlers. Antlers looks incredible. I can't believe that. I just figured I didn't watch it. I didn't know that it never came out.
Well, you got a ways to wait at this point too, so
Man.
unfortunately. All right, the October releases we hit on Dune, obviously. Bond is there. Halloween. Any standouts for anyone? I mean, it's a good month, certainly.
Oh, the
Snake Eyes probably is the best of them. Last Duel. Actually, no, Last Duel is the best. You're right. You're
for
right.
sure. I will definitely catch the Last Duel. Does have Adam Driver in it, so that's cool.
Okay. November 5th, we get a double feature of Clifford the Big Red Dog and Eternals.
Wonder what I'll be
guys see-
watching.
Did you guys see the thing they put out the design for Clifford the Big Red Dog?
Oh,
And it's just a huge, awful CGI on monstrosity. Look it up. It's not quite cardboard cutouts here, but I do think it's worth looking at.
Oh God,
It's not great.
no,
It's not great.
It looks like they went into Photoshop and they shift dragged the corner just to make it bigger, of just like an adorable Labrador puppy. But then the texture on it looks like it's made of like rotten meat. It's literally the color of like rotten meat flesh. Oh my God.
yeah, that looks like horse shit. I'll be watching the Eternals. Thank you for
I'll
making
be watching
that
the
easy.
Eternals. All right. Well, I think I will be too. This is the. MCU is. I mean, this is actually a really diverse cast that is in Eternals, but this to me feels like one of the more let's go on a limb in terms of storytelling as well, of these beings that have been around for thousands of years, minimally speaking, and bring them into modern day setting and get Jon Snow involved and see what's going on with this shit. I don't know. It's going to be weird and out there, and I think kind of grand. I think in terms of scale, and certainly Chloe Zhao is getting a lot of recognition for Nomadland, which we haven't seen yet. But it's one of those things. You go from an indie darling, it seems like, to hyper big budget Marvel film. I would love to see the transition in the same year, just to see her go from one thing to the other. I'm very excited about Eternals and kind of the weirdness I think that it promises. What about you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good test to see how people respond to the weird side of Marvel. I mean, bring us something different.
Yeah, I mean, everyone predicted Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be the first bomb for Marvel, and then, how'd that turn out? So I'm curious to see how this one fares as well, and I think the cast is another one, like, a lot of appeal in that cast. Excited to see, and I just think, like, the potential of it could also just excite people, that it's this weird and kind of different thing that Marvel's doing. I just think that could be really cool. So I'm excited about that. Certainly a little bit more excited about it than Clifford, I must say. November 11th, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Got a trailer for that a while back. Some more Ghostbusters and a little bit different Ghostbusters vibe, obviously, that we're not really getting the main Ghostbusters cast in it. Although I'm sure they'll cameo maybe in some way that they did with the last Ghostbusters that came out that people really loved. That one film that people really loved. Remember that?
Yeah, the trailer especially was well loved.
Yeah.
Most liked trailer.
Yeah, people really, really liked it for sure.
And I'm torn because I don't think that was a bad movie. It was fine. It was fun. It didn't deserve the hate that it got.
No.
But I also don't think that I think that some of the hate was genuine because it came from people that said, wait a minute, I want to see like Ghostbusters, not Kevin Feige's Bridesmaids version of Ghostbusters with fart jokes and shit. But I also don't think that this feels like Ghostbusters. This feels like Ghostbusters meets Stranger Things meets, a little bit of like Super 8. Like, it has that feel of like, hey, we want to reference it, but it's not going to feel like Ghostbusters 1 or 2, and we're never going to get that again. Unfortunately, because of the cast that have passed away, we're not going to get it. This might be as close as we ever get, though, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I mean, the Stranger Things vibe is obviously very apparent. Fenn Wolfhard being involved obviously doesn't help with that cause particularly, but it looks fun. I like the Ghostbusters films. I think it's fine to do something different and out there, and yes, it's making no bones about what it is. So yeah, I think it can work. November 19th, I think, is a big one. Mission Impossible 7. If Tom Cruise has anything to say about it, they'll finish filming safely, and they'll get that out in time for November. And
we'll fucking fire you, you piece of shit. If you
I think Tom Cruise would probably murder him, to be honest, and feed him to Xenu. But I love the Mission Impossible franchise and what it's evolved into. I'm super excited to see what Chris McQuarrie brings with 7. I know Haley Atwell is joining the cast. I think we're getting a lot of returning cast members too. Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg. Probably no Henry Cavill, if I had to guess. But I don't know. I want more. I just rewatched the whole franchise with Anna not too long ago, and when I finished Fallout, I was just like, God damn it, I can't wait for the next one. And it was exciting to know, like, oh, it's less than a year away. Great. So I'm pretty hyped for it.
I'm on the same page. Same exact page, as a matter of fact.
Last two, November 19th is King Richard, an HBO Max simultaneous debut. I think it's about Serena and Venus Williams, a little bit of a tennis movie starring Will Smith, I believe, as their father. King Richard is not a movie you'd expect to be about tennis, but alas, it is. And we got some snippets of this in the HBO Max.
Looked good.
Same day debut, and I expect it'll probably be a pretty good drama. And November 24th is another Pixar venture called Encanto. So we talked about it a little bit. I think this is the one that Lin-Manuel Miranda is also involved in, which is to say that he's a very, very busy man this year. He is certainly putting some work in. But
I guess you can say he hasn't thrown away his shot.
He has not thrown away his shot, indeed. Indeed. All right, any of the November ones? Are we ready to end with
Let's
December?
keep on going. Let's bang this thing out.
All right, December 3rd. Here we have Nightmare Alley. What is that, you ask? It is the next film from none other than Guillermo del Toro. Or as Andrew might say,
Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro.
Nightmare Alley has Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Andrew's favorite, Toni Collette.
Oh my goodness. I know who's winning Actress of the Year.
Ron Perlman. It's
Ron Perlman. Nice.
Yeah.
He's in all his movies, though.
It's about an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words who hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is.
Ooh.
So, I don't know what that's all about, but that's an excellent cast, and Guillermo del Toro wrote and directed it. I'm good. I don't need any more information. I'm good.
I'll see it.
Bring it on.
And I'm excited.
Yeah, I think that'll be that's really exciting. So, looking forward to that. Was the last thing Shape of Water? Has he done
Shape of Water?
Has he directed
sure,
anything since then?
Shape of Water was incredible too. So
I don't think he's done anything since then. And
yeah, I don't think so either.
He didn't do a lot.
Yeah.
Before that was Crimson Peak, and then before that Pacific Rim. So he's
apparently he's doing a stop-motion animated Pinocchio film for Netflix, which is also supposed to come out in 2021. How come they didn't stick that shit in their 2021 reel?
Probably because it's fucking bonkers weird.
Probably. Yeah, that's probably why.
And here I thought that Nightmare Alley actually seemed pretty grounded for the plot of a Guillermo del Toro film. But then when I hear he's doing Pinocchio, I'm like, oh yeah, that's where those eggs went.
That's the outlet. That's the outlet for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, three more. December 10th, West Side Story. Steven Spielberg's adaptation of West Side Story was supposed to come out December of 2020. It did not. Here it is. It's going to be another version of it. We'll see how it pans out. I don't really have any thoughts on it beyond that, but I think the last two are very exciting. December 17th, we'll be seeing another attempt at a Spider-Man 3, as of yet untitled Spider-Man Far From Home sequel. Maybe a Spider-Verse live-action thing from the sounds of things. Maybe not. We'll see how it kind of pans out. But I'm excited. I think the Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man films have been just really, really impressive. And, this is a film that almost didn't get made with the involvement of Marvel Studios, and then they got their shit sorted out. So now here we are. Far From Home left it in a pretty interesting place of his identity apparently being outed. Surely we can look forward to more J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson. I don't know. There's a lot to look forward to here, So I'm excited about Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man Homeward Bound, Spider-Man Quarantined at Home. I don't know. Whatever it's going to be. But yeah. And then last but not least, December 22nd, appropriately also appearing on HBO Max, is The Matrix 4. Apparently currently just untitled or known as Matrix, not The Matrix, just Matrix. Allegedly called The Matrix Resurrected. Bringing back Keanu, Carrie-Anne Moss, I think some other new faces to the franchise. I think it's I think it's directed by Lana Wachowski. I think she's it's not the Wachowski sisters directing it. It's just Lana Wachowski that's directing it. But so I don't know if that means that it, I don't know what the creative process was like on the first 3 Matrix films. So I'm curious to obviously see how that impacts it. But also, it's been years since those mostly maligned Matrix sequels. So maybe a few years gives it a perspective that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. But that's December. Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, Spider-Man 3, Matrix 4. Thoughts? Anything there? I mean, it's a good
highly
month,
interested in 3 of the 4: Nightmare Alley, Spider-Man 3, and Matrix 4.
Yeah, I'd say those
100%.
are. Yeah. And so that would be it. But I do have 2 miscellaneous releases without dates right now that I do want to throw out there.
Ooh.
Talked about Wes Anderson. The French Dispatch is expected to debut this year. But
Fuck
no
yeah,
date has
I've been waiting
set
on
for
that
it
movie
yet.
a long time too.
Finally, another.
Sometimes I doubt my fan of my fan of filmdom, if that's a thing, because then like that went by I was super excited for the French Dispatch, and then it never popped up, and I was like I completely forgot about it until you just said it. It's like up until this point I thought I just missed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how fucked last year must have been, though. That Quiet Place 2, No Time to Die, all these movies that we were so pumped for, gone, faded out of our minds. But
we were preoccupied with some other thoughts, I suppose. But we would have welcomed the distraction at home minimally. But it is what it is. So French Dispatch will land on the schedule, I'm sure, sometime in 2021, but just no date yet. And the other one is something that we're still managing to end on an HBO Max simultaneous debut. Is a film called Reminiscence, starring Hugh Jackman, which was teased during the HBO Max same day premiere thing, except it doesn't have a premiere date. So, go figure.
What's it about?
So, Reminiscence, it's a sci-fi film. Hugh Jackman, Rebecca Ferguson, Tanny Newton,
Leggy
Bay, indeed. He plays a veteran who can give people the chance to relive any memory that they desire, and then that gets complicated when he meets Rebecca. When he meets Leggy Bay, things start to proceed in a different direction from there. It's written and directed by Lisa Joy, who is a co-creator of Westworld. So I'm expecting this to be weird and out there.
It might be really good.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. We got mostly just shots of Hugh Jackman standing around looking like a huge jacked man, as he is wont to do.
He's a good talker, too. He just talks a couple simple lines in the little thing, and it was good.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Okay, Hugh Jackman, I'll take a deep breath.
If you say so, mister. So yeah, that's it. French Dispatch and The Reminiscence are the 2 outliers that I expect we'll see, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about them, or at least see them minimally, So at long last, that is 2021, a look ahead. Many things to look forward to. I think this episode obviously was probably longer than Andrew and I anticipated. And I'm not going to blame Dan for that. What I am going to blame is the fact that half of these movies should have already come out. You know what I mean? 2021 would have looked really different if 2020 wasn't as fucked as it was.
If Ben Affleck didn't have a cardboard cutout of Anna de Armas, we would have been able to move on a lot quicker.
We would have saved at least 5 minutes right there. That's for sure. But honestly, I don't regret that, and I don't regret any of this episode. I think it was fun, and I'm excited. Just teeing up what we have to look forward to in 2021, and I hope that even if we're going to be keeping ourselves busy trying to watch all these fucking movies because we're basically working overtime, we're doing double time on the movies that we didn't have the chance to cover last year, and any new shit that's coming out on top of all that. But a lot of good stuff to look forward to, and a lot of good stuff that I am looking forward to. So
yeah, it's going to be a good year.
There you have it. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. $2 a month gets you access to any forthcoming bonus episodes, as well as early access to all of our regular episodes. Website's watchreviewrepeat.com. If you want to listen to our 2020 A Look Ahead episode and compare our takes from this episode to that one, I imagine they're fairly similar in some ways, but perhaps not. We are at Twitter, at WRRPod. If you want to follow us there, you can just search for us on Facebook, just by looking up Watch Review Repeat and follow our page there, like our page there. Questions, comments, suggestions, if you're looking forward to anything in particular in 2021 and you want to chime in, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com is the way to do that. Intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. I know it was a long episode. I hope our listeners enjoyed it. And I will say, before we wrap up, a big thank you to Dan for joining us on this episode. I really appreciated having you on here. It was nice to have a third perspective on things, you know. And it was fun for me, and I think many ways, because I know Andrew's kind of sensibilities and his kind of takes on things, so it was interesting to hear from you, and I was a little worried that you were going to be a Zack Snyder's Justice League defender, and we fortunately cleared that roadblock with flying colors, and I had a good time. So I think it's safe to say I'll look forward to having you on for another episode. Maybe it's to talk about Justice League if you can manage to suffer through 4 hours of it. If you can't, no one will absolutely hold it against you. But
watch it like a Quibi, you'll be okay. Watch it.
No, thank you both for having me on. I've been badgering Andrew about this for a couple months, so I appreciate it. I had a blast. I hope to come back at some point and we can laugh and talk about some more movies. Hopefully we'll be seeing some movies. And everyone out there, please wear your masks so we can all go to the movie theater again soon.
Listen to the man. He speaks truths. Next episode, I would like to cover Judas and the Black Messiah. I think that feels like it's worthy of an episode.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched it yet, so TBD. And I've got a lot of editing to do between these past couple episodes that we've talked about. 2020 and 2021 brought us lots of goodies, and so the listeners they'll be content for a little while, I expect. So it is what it is. We'll get around to the next episode when we make the time and space for it. So with all that said, thank you again to Dan. Thank you to Andrew. And thank you to myself. No, I'm just kidding. Andrew, why don't you take us out?
Thanks, Dan, for coming in. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you on the next time we have you in. Other than that, party on, dudes.
Later's on the Menche.